Hey guys, imagine stumbling groggily from a moss-lined cave floor, your limbs aching like you've just wrestled a woolly mammoth in your sleep, your stomach grumbling louder than a saber-toothed tiger on the prowl. That's right, you're about to discover why you wouldn't survive a single day as a Neanderthal. Before you get comfortable, please hit like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do. Drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's dive together into today's journey. You've just awakened in Ice Age Europe, somewhere between the jagged alpine peaks and the windswept steppes of what will one day be France. There's no YouTube algorithm to guide you, no smartphone alarm buzzing politely at 7 a.m. Instead, a shrill shriek pierces the frigid air. Your fellow cave dweller, Ajuk, has spotted a roaming pack of dire wolves. Great start, right? Your first order of business, gear up. Let's pause to appreciate that your outfit consists of a sloppily tied hide cloak and boots fashioned from whatever animals happened to die in the last millennium. Your hands fumble to secure a flint-tipped spear because, spoiler alert, survival hinges on pleasing a dinner that requires you to function at peak performance. It's cold enough to freeze a brontosaurus's toenails off, yet your only defense against hypothermia is a coat that smells faintly of yesterday's mammoth stew. Step outside the cave and breathe in deeply. The crisp air will sting your lungs like 1,000 tiny icicles. Better hope you're not prone to asthma. Meanwhile, the terrain resembles a post-apocalyptic snow globe, promising countless opportunities to trip over rocks, sprain an ankle, or faceplant into a pile of frozen yak dung. Remember, no trail mix here. Just nothing but jagged stones and permafrost as far as the eye can see. On the bright side, you'll look ridiculously cool in the family photo plastered across evolutionary textbooks. Hunger pangs set in almost immediately. Your body, accustomed to 3 square meals, quick oats, avocado toast, protein shake, now expects to survive on a single hair you might snag with your makeshift spear. Good luck outsmarting a wily lagomorph skilled at darting into burrows that your spindly legs can't quite reach. And don't even think about sophisticated traps or snaring techniques. Ajuk shook his head when you asked. Too complex, he grunted. Processing that, you begin to suspect that the Neanderthal method of hunting is akin to playing ultimate tag with an animal that wants to kill you. Miraculously, after a series of embarrassingly close misses and near-death lunges, you manage to land a blow, direct hit. The hair collapses, you pant in triumph, and immediately realize you have no clue how to butcher it. Congratulations, you have successfully harvested a meal you can't eat. Ajuk eyes you, clearly deciding whether you're a nuisance or tomorrow's dinner. You learn the handy lesson that Neanderthals internalized. Waste not, want not, but also don't die while learning basic anatomy. Assuming you miraculously master the rudiments of flaying, you build a rudimentary fire with the tinder your ancestors taught you to gather. Step 1. Friction between sticks. Step 2. Call revisionist history to explain to future generations that invention of the wheel was a bigger deal. Friction sticks are awkward as hell. Flames flicker, illuminating your breath in the darkness. The smell of singed fur and hair fills the air. Culinary refinement does not exist here. You roast the hare by impaling its limbs on sharpened sticks and rotating them over coals. No rotisserie, no marinade, no side of kale. You feel proud until you taste what can only be described as burnt shoelaces. Your taste buds beg for mercy. Meal half consumed, you realize your bone-chilling cave lacks creature comforts. No fluffy comforter, no heated mattress pad, no 8 pillows for optimal neck support. Instead, your bedding is a pile of leaves, furs, and the occasional twig. That pointy thing digging into your ribs isn't a feature. It's nature's way of saying, told you so. Meanwhile, the cave walls are adorned with prehistoric graffiti, crude, charcoal sketches of mammoths, handprints, and what likely passed for ancient abstract art. You'd clean up if you could, but the only tool is a jagged rock, which also doubles as one-size-fits-all kitchen knife, hammer, and dental drill. As dusk falls, dusk being a 2-hour expanse of bleak gray, you huddle by the fire, listening to distant howls. No Netflix, no Spotify, just the raw symphony of predators prepping for their nightly snack. You try to focus on the positives, at least you're not alone, right? Well, only if you consider Ajak's chronic grunting to be friendly banter. Conversation is limited. Ugh conveys multiple meanings. Pass the meat, watch your back, and why are you so clumsy? It's like living with a roommate who speaks exclusively in grunts and passive-aggressive nudges. Night arrives in full force, plunging your world into inky darkness, punctuated only by the orange glow of embers. You realize your senses are on high alert. Every rustle in the underbrush sets your heart pounding. Sleep? What's that? Prehistoric insomnia, folks, is the worst. Your primitive brain toggles between avoid being eaten and did I leave the cave door open? Meanwhile, darkness conspires to trip you in your sleep. You'll probably wake up face down in snow, neck cricked, questioning all your life choices. Now fast forward to dawn. Though fast here means you barely slept for 30 minutes before a piercing shriek reverberates through the cave. A charging woolly rhino, apparently looking for its misplaced toenail clippings, has decided to nest nearby. You scramble awake, grabbing anything resembling a weapon, your spear now bent, and brace yourself for what might be the most traumatic meeting ever. You versus an armored tank with a horn. Spoiler, the rhino wins. Or you dodge, somehow, and Ajuk laughs, pointing at your flailing limbs, which look like a newborn deer stumbling on ice. Blood pressure through the roof, you limp to the creek to collect water. Water gathering means dipping a leaf or a rock into the icy flow, then tipping it into your mouth. No purifier, no filter, just hope I don't catch amoebic dysentery. And of course, the creek is home to a bustling micro-ecosystem of bacteria that will test the limits of your ancient immune system. Bottom line, your only guarantee is a tummy that gurgles in a language you can't decipher. By mid-morning, you're hunting for firewood, which involves schlepping heavy logs across uneven terrain, then trying to break them with your bare hands. Your muscles ache like they've been through a medieval torture contraption. You fantasize about a feather-light chainsaw trademark and ergonomic handle designs. Meanwhile, your ancestors carry armfuls of wood like it's NBD, and all you can think is that NBD must stand for no big deal if you're superhuman. Perhaps the pinnacle of absurdity arrives when you need to fashion basic tools. Try whittling a bone into a needle. Nope. Your crude carving yields a splintered stub that could double as a hairpin for a giant. Sewing hides together? Forget it. Your primitive thread snaps repeatedly. You think, maybe I should start an Etsy shop for tailor-made Neanderthal outfits. But artisanship in the Pleistocene era is about as subtle as a club to the face. By lunch, you're back on the hare, cold this time, with a side of early-onset scurvy, courtesy of zero fresh produce. Your knuckles ache from using stones as hammers. Your joints holler louder than the dire wolves you narrowly avoided. You glance at Ajuk, whose face is strangely serene, like he's just enjoying a Sunday picnic. You, on the other hand, feel every ounce of your mortality and possibly a mild existential crisis. If I can't survive one day in the Ice Age, what hope do I have against debt collectors in modern life? Afternoon brings weather changes, rapid, unpredictable, and you're soaked by an impromptu sleet storm that turns your hide cloak into a soggy mess. Hypothermia is now your unwelcome companion, whispering sweet nothings about numbed limbs and fading consciousness. Your ancestors boast about being hardy, but you're pretty sure hardy translates to inconceivably miserable for decades. Yet somehow, you press on. You find a shallow cave alcove dripping with mineral-laced water, and realize it's perfect for scraping hides to make clothing. But as you crouch, you dislodge a stalactite, which crashes down with a roar that echoes through the cavern. The resulting tremor sends you careening backward, slamming your shoulder against the wall. Instinctively, you grunt in pain, just like Ajuk does when he's comfortable. As dusk nears again, you rally what remains of your dignity, frayed though it may be, and decide to construct a more permanent shelter. Step 1. Move 2 boulders to form a windbreak. Step 2. Wedge branches between them. Step 3. Hope it doesn't collapse in the night and flatten you like yesterday's dough under a rolling pin. Meanwhile, Ajuk has already done this in his sleep, or so you suspect. Night 2, if you live that long, promises more howls, more existential dread, and likely a dramatic face-off with a rogue saber-tooth. Your newfound goal? Make it to a second sunrise without becoming someone else's dinner. And that, dear viewers, is just the beginning of your day as a Neanderthal. A living, breathing testament to the fact that if you can't hack this, you absolutely don't deserve heated seats in your car or a well-behaved Roomba. Stick around for part 2, where we cover the thrilling saga of tool-making disasters, love rituals that make modern dating seem sane, and the delightful joys of dental hygiene without toothpaste. Trust me, it only gets worse. Alright, buckle up for part 2 of your Neanderthal nightmare. Yesterday you barely survived dawn to dusk. Today you plunge headlong into the glorious world of tool-making disasters, Neanderthal romance. Yes, that exists. And prehistoric dental care that will make your dentist weep with relief. You awaken, if you can call 20 minutes of panic twitching sleep, to the brutal realization that your makeshift windbreak collapsed overnight. Congratulations, you now have a rolling pin cave hug as a bedfellow. Your first order of business is to rebuild and reinforce your shelter. Step 1. Identify a suitable boulder. In modern life, you'd consult Google Maps. Here, you eyeball a lump of stone roughly big enough to deflect a meandering woolly rhino and roll it with brute force. You grunt, you heave, you channel your inner Hulk, and it moves maybe 6 inches. You nearly slip, faceplant into snow, and thank the Ice Age gods you didn't impale yourself. Ajuk strolls over, grips opposite side of the rock, whispers something that may be encouragement, then rocks it free in one smooth motion. Hint, the Neanderthal definition of smooth motion involves zero respect for back safety. Shelter reinforced-ish. You turn to your next fun task, crafting better tools. Yesterday's flimsy spear bent like a coat hanger under pressure. Today, you aim for an upgrade. A throwing spear, maybe even a club with a weighted end. First, you whittle a sturdy branch into a tapered shaft. This involves a crude stone that doubles as knife, file, and stress ball. You tug at bark, think about your ergonomic Swiss Army knife back home, then proceed to hack at the wood until you've gouged several painful splinters into your palms. Removing them is your 8th circle of Dante. You rub them on a rock, creating more wood shavings and new slivers until your hands look like you've auditioned for a zombie movie. Next, you need a head for your spear, ideally flint or bone. You remember Ajuk smashed open a mammoth rib yesterday and pried out something that resembled a knife. You find a chunk of flint, lean forward to chip it with another stone, and end up with something that looks like a jagged potato chip. One false swing later, you send shale chips flying, narrowly missing your eyebrow. You stick the flint shard onto your shaft with pitch, boiled tree resin, wrap it in sinew from your hair, and hope. The pitch hardens. It cracks in the morning, catapulting your flint head across the cave. Nice. By mid-morning, you've learned 2 things. 1. Your ancestors had the patience of saints, and 2, you're neither saint nor patient. You survey your tool collection, a bent spear, a chipped knife, and a club that splintered into shivs. You consider just using your fist for the rest of eternity. Hungry once more, you decide to fish. There's a nearby stream teeming, supposedly, with trout. Modern, you would buy a fishing rod. Neanderthal, you improvises. You carve a bone hook from a rabbit femur and tie it to a strand of rawhide cord. Yes, the same rawhide you use as laces. You bait it with insects, because who doesn't want to handle wriggling grubs at breakfast? You lower your line, wait 15 minutes, then 30, then an hour. You catch nothing but a damp cold and deep existential regret. Meanwhile, Ajuk empties 3 fish into his hide bag with ease. He grunts something, you nod, and he tosses you a dripping trout as consolation. You swallow it raw, your teeth gnash through bones, because cooking demands time and you'd rather sleep 20 extra terrified minutes. Tool disasters behind you. For now, your stomach grumbling like a neurotic toddler, you face the next hurdle. Love. Yes, Neanderthals had mating rituals. As horrifying as that sounds, it's, bear with me, actually structured. Forget Tinder, think flint sparks and grunt poetry. Ajuk's sister, Laura, lingers at the cave mouth, draped in furs dyed with berry juice, an early form of lipstick. She gives you a once-over. You're sweaty, scrape-covered, rat-haired, and still wearing that hair hide from yesterday. The Neanderthal Cupid has a twisted sense of humor. You muster a flirtatious grunt. You point to your heart, a rock shaped suspiciously like a heart. Then to Laura. She tilts her head, long dark hair tangling in icicles, and grunts back. Translation: you smell like yesterday's lunch. Not the line you rehearsed. Undeterred, you offer her a trinket, the partially intact flint shard you used. She examines it, shoves it in her fur satchel, and nods, either in approval or pity. Low stakes. Next, you dance. The dance involves stomping in a clearing while banging rocks together, essentially making the world's worst percussion ensemble. Lura joins in, laughing that primal cackle. Your limbs flail. You look like a malfunctioning golem. But by prehistoric standards, you're killing it. When you finish, she points at a spot near the fire, meaning, sit with me. You sit. She prods you to feed her a piece of fish. You do so, and the date, miraculously, does not end in violence. Instead, you share warmth by the embers, as Laura hums a primitive melody that oddly resembles a lullaby. For a moment, you almost forget your miseries. Then a rat scampers by, and you remember everything. But romance aside, dental hygiene urgently beckons. Yesterday's frozen creek water doubled as mouthwash, and likely a petri dish for prehistoric pathogens. Today's plan: fashion a toothbrush from a twig. You select a branch, peel away bark on one end, chew until fibers fray, and voila, a bristle brush. Next, you need toothpaste. Enter the abrasive paste of ash and crushed charcoal. You rub the mix on your teeth. Your gums bleed. Congratulations. You just invented gingivitis. You spit and rinse with cold water. Your sensitivity matches Santa's naughty list. At least your breath now smells like a funeral pyre. Minus the flowers. Midday arrives and you head out to gather berries for vitamin boost. You spot some plump ones, bright red against snowy white. You dive in, wolf them down, and an uncanny zing tells you these aren't just berries. They're toxic nightshade. You gag, your throat tightens, and for a glorious moment you contemplate death by berry. Lucky for you, the dose was small, just enough to make you hallucinate that Ajuk's silhouette transforms into a dancing mammoth. He slaps you on the back, hard, and you snap back to reality, gasping. Lesson learned: never eat red berries without consulting a botanical degree. Shaken, but alive, you retreat to the cave. Your muscles ache from fetching wood, building shelter, flirting, and brushing your teeth. You're running on raw fish protein and hallucinations. This is not a lifestyle. It's a cardiologist's nightmare. You glance at the horizon. Snow clouds gather, promising a blizzard that will make your hide cloak feel like wet tissue. Sleep beckons like a siren, yet you know better than to trust it. As dusk approaches, you decide to practice fire maintenance. Yesterday's blaze sputtered out when you weren't looking. Tonight, you vow it won't die on your watch. You feed it sticks, logs, and your last scrap of pitch. Sparks flare, embers glow, and you let yourself bask in the warmth. Fire is humanity's greatest invention, unless you're burnt to a crisp, in which case it's the greatest threat. You sit cross-legged, nursing your charred fingertips, and wonder if micromanaging flames is worth the risk. The temperature plummets. Frost creeps along cave walls like ghostly fingers. Laura returns, a ghostly figure in furs, bearing a small pile of moss for bedding. She tosses it next to your branch toothbrush and rawhide thread. You've been using that for everything. You exchange a grunt of thanks. As you settle into your uneasy respite, she hums again, and you realize Neanderthal lullabies have two speeds, soothing and utterly terrifying when you're half dead from berry poisoning. Night falls, and from the cave mouth you glimpse dancing snowflakes, each one a crystalline dagger promising frostbite. You burrow under furs, clutching your makeshift spear like a security blanket. Tomorrow, if tomorrow arrives, you'll tackle cooking techniques, hello stew, cave art, or finger painting with animal fat, and the ultimate Neanderthal luxury, finally figuring out how to make tools that don't kill you. But for now, you close your eyes, count grunts instead of sheep, and pray to whatever deity oversees hapless time travelers. And there you have it, part 2 of your one-day stint as a Neanderthal, where romance is a grunt, hygiene is medieval torture, and every chore is an every moment struggle. Stick around for part 3, where we'll dive into the savage world of cave politics, pregnancy taboos, you read that right, and how your every sneeze could be mistaken for a mating call. Spoiler, it gets worse. Welcome back, intrepid time-warped wanderers. Brace yourselves, because today we plunge headfirst into the savage politics of your newfound Neanderthal clan, tiptoe around their eyebrow-raising pregnancy taboos, and learn why letting out a simple sneeze could inadvertently land you a mate, or an arrow to the knee. Spoiler, it gets delightfully absurd. You blink awake in the communal cave, if you can call Ajuk's snoring communal harmony. The first order of business isn't breakfast or fire maintenance, It's clan politics. Yes, your cozy little tribe operates under a strict pecking order that makes high school cafeteria drama look like Sunday brunch. At the top sits Grook, the self-appointed alpha male, whose title was earned by toppling a rival in a wrestling match that involved more mud than a toddler's playpen. Grook's word is law. If he grunts that berries go to him first, you can bet the next time you reach for a handful, you'll find empty hands and a stern glare. Grook's second-in-command, Mara the Keen-Eyed, patrols the perimeter with a spear in one hand and a measuring stick in the other, because somebody has to ensure Ajuk isn't sneaking extra mammoth ribs back to the cave. When Mara catches you reaching for the meat pile before your sanctioned share, she stamps over, jabs a finger at your chest, and emits a guttural which roughly translates to, queue up behind the rock and wait your turn. You comply, because Mara once hurled a spear so accurately at a saber-toothed skull that it lodged right between the eye sockets. Lesson learned: never argue with the clan's food auditor. Next, you observe the Great Council of Elders, a circle of stooped figures with wizened faces and more wrinkles than an overcooked hide cloak. They preside over disputes. Who ate all the roasted hare? Who keeps kicking through the cave walls at night? Whose footprints are these by the prime berry bush? Their rulings are delivered in a slow, echoing chant that would put the snootiest online forum moderators to shame. Sentence? Public humiliation. You must stand at the cave entrance wearing a headdress of fish guts while your clanmates hurl berries at you until bedtime. Charming. From politics we segue to pregnancy. Yes, even in the Ice Age, baby boomers existed. But Neanderthal pregnancy taboos make modern ultrasounds and gender reveal parties look quaint. Word spreads fast because your cave buddy Laura discovers she's expecting. Congratulations are shouted in grunts, followed by a solemn hush. The elders convene. Unborn life is both blessing and logistical nightmare. Laura is swiftly subjected to a gauntlet of rituals. First, she must consume 3 bites of raw mammoth liver to prove her womb's seriousness. She gags, retches, but swallows, lest the elders deem her unworthy of motherhood and banish her to the frosty plains. Next comes the labyrinth walk, a stagger through a rocky chasm lit only by small torch flames, blindfolded, guided only by handholds carved centuries ago. If she emerges upright, they declare the child's spirit strong. If she faceplants, well, let's hope you don't volunteer to carry her back. Laura emerges battered but smiling. The elders declare, child's got spirit, will need strong hips. Translation: brace yourself for screaming, spit up, and morale-sapping tribal lullabies. Then, the taboos. Expectant mothers must avoid eclipsed moons, bad luck for baby shin growth, certain animal pelts, wearing otter, skin risks birthing a water-loving child who might drown the clan's fish stash, and sneezing, because a sneeze near a pregnant belly is said to jostle the spirit, potentially transforming the fetus into a bush baby. Nobody's quite sure. Laura, petrified of involuntarily expelling air, practices silent sneezes by covering her mouth and releasing only a soft, muffled "ft." The whole clan watches approvingly, as if she just performed the world's quietest tuba solo. Meanwhile, you, wishing you'd never asked about the childbirth process, realize your place in this primordial society is not cushy. You're conscripted as bucket carrier, lugging hot spring water to rinse Laura's hair and serve as fetcher of fine berries for morning sickness relief. Each trip you make is followed by the elders' appreciative nods, which you interpret as good job, Neanderthal-y. Secretly, you wonder if this qualifies you for citizenship, or if they'll eventually demand your own skull as a gratitude gift. As afternoon descends, a sudden hush falls. A stranger from a neighboring clan has arrived, bearing a gift, a slab of obsidian, and an invitation to a diplomatic get-together. It's unprecedented. Usually rival clans settle differences with club duels or fierce snarling contests. Today, you shuffle along with the delegation, clutching your bent spear for moral support. The neutral ground, a frozen lake halfway between territories, shimmering under a pale sun. You step onto the ice, your cave buddy Ajuk's hulking frame right beside you. Negotiations begin. Grook and his counterpart exchange guttural salutations, tap spears on the frozen surface, and grunt status reports. Food? Scarce. Wolves? Many. Woolly rhinos? Still too big. Then comes the gift exchange, obsidian slab for mammoth tusk carving. Everyone nods, signifying peace, for now. Some tribal pianist harmony for the Ice Age. You watch, astounded that these hardened killers can pause to barter like Wall Street traders on a less hairy cocktail day. Now, to inject some of your modern awkwardness, remember that sneeze taboo? During negotiations, Mara sneezes, an unintentional booming achoo that echoes across the lake like a cannon volley. Heads whip around. "She's cursed," whispers a gauntlet weaver behind you. Mara's face blushes under layers of fur. Someone tosses her an herb-smelling pouch, chanting incantations to calm the fetal spirits. You, standing there with your modern nose, consider offering a tissue packet. Alas, it's more likely to be axed as a sorcery tool and burned. With diplomacy concluded, you breathe a sigh of relief, but only for a moment. You've earned the grand honor of flag bearer, tasked with planting your clan's totem bone at the lake's edge, a ritual to commemorate peace. You grasp the bone, which looks suspiciously like a cow femur repurposed, and step forward. The ice creaks ominously beneath you. You freeze, heart pounding. If this bone shatters the ice, you'll become dinner for whichever hungry fish lurks beneath. You press the bone into a shallow crack. Crack! It widens. Panicked, you yank your foot back, managing to avoid plunging into the freezing water. The entire assembly stares. Ajuk chuckles, patting your back. "Good for clan," he snorts. Translation: excellent, almost drowning demonstration. As dusk approaches, you're rewarded with a feast. Smoked fish, roasted haunch, fermented berry wine, that is to say, slightly alcoholic gruel. You sit cross-legged on the tundra, chowing down while watching Grook deliver a toast, in grunts, naturally, that roughly means, "May our clan stand together, until one of us gets hungry again." You clink bones with a neighboring warrior. His hand is covered in fish scales. You taste betrayal, or maybe it's just the lingering fish oil. Night falls, and you return to your original cave, muscles aching from politics, pregnancy chores, diplomatic snow walking, and near drownings. You slump by the fire, and Laura emerges with a gift, a small carved figurine of a mother holding a child, fashioned from mammoth ivory. She hands it to you, eyes gleaming. "For brave helper," she grunts. Your chest swells, until the cold seeps in, chilling you to the bone. Before you drift into fitful slumber, you reflect. In one day, you've navigated a social hierarchy more complex than most reality TV shows, tiptoed through rituals that make modern bureaucracy look streamlined, and learned that each sneeze or misstep can shift your tribal standing faster than you can say pulmonary embolism. You realize survival isn't just about spear throwing or fire tending. It's a full contact sport of social gymnastics, taboos, and the constant threat of being eaten, bartered, or voted off the ice floe. Tomorrow, if you make it to tomorrow, you'll grapple with Neanderthal philosophy. Why do rocks exist? Advanced hide painting techniques, abstract mammoth art, and the ultimate Ice Age challenge, teaching your clan to whistle in perfect harmony so they can scare off predators, or maybe just annoy the neighbor on a Sunday. But for now, you cling to your hide cloak, whisper a silent prayer that your pillow, read pile of leaves, stays grump-free, and vow that by part 4, you'll either be a bona fide Neanderthal veteran or an archaeological footnote. Stick around, because the nightmare isn't over yet. You've made it, if by made it you mean you're still alive, only slightly more beaten down and wiser in the unfortunate ways of the Pleistocene era. Today we wrap up your epic one-day saga with Neanderthal philosophy. Spoiler, it hinges on existential dread. Advanced hide painting masterclasses, predator scarecrow experiments, and the ultimate test, convincing your clan you're more than just that clumsy time traveler. First, dawn of reflection. Philosophy by firelight. You wake to the smell of burnt pitch and the distant call of shaggy mammoth herds. With half-chewed fish still dangling from your lip, you contemplate life's big questions, because Neanderthals had deep thoughts too, albeit expressed in guttural grunts and sharp facial contortions. You prop yourself against a boulder and stare into the dying embers of your fire pit. Question 1. Why are we here? Ajuk suggests the answer lies in eat mate, not be eaten. You mull this over as you rub last night's charcoal into crude doodles on the cave wall. Proof that early man doodled when bored. Question 2. What is beauty? Laura's berry-stained furs provide inspiration. You mix red dye with animal fat, swirl it into patterns, and smear them on your face. It doesn't improve your date prospects, she winces, but it does make you feel bold. By mid-morning, you've painted an abstract mammoth mural that would horrify any modern art critic. Yet somewhere in that chaotic swirl of charcoal and blood-red berries lies a spark of creativity. Proof you're evolving, sort of. Dusra, predator-repellent scarecrow experiment. Next on today's agenda, boosting clan safety by rigging predator scare contraptions. You've noted how saber-toothed tigers hesitate at unfamiliar sights. Why not craft something to spook them? Using 2 forked sticks, strips of hide, and a flint knife, you cobble together a frightening mannequin. You drape it in wolf pelts, affix clanking bones for audio effect, and cajole Ajuk into placing it at the cave entrance. The test? You stake out 100 yards away, perched behind an ice-encrusted shrub. Hours pass. A curious fox approaches, sniffs, then bolts. You'd call that success. Then a dire wolf wanders by, tilts its head, and huffs disdainfully before slinking off. Even Grook admits it's effective, which in Neanderthal terms means I didn't get eaten. You high-five Ajuk with a rawhide whip salute. Your clan now regards you as their proto-Dr. Frankenstein, minus the lightning bolts. Moondrong, culinary redemption, the stew that saved your life. Remember that hare you butchered on day 1? It's finally stew time. You've scavenged onions like roots, edible if you don't mind stomach cramps, and harvested wild herbs that Ajuk assures you are only mildly hallucinogenic. In a rock hollow, you build a fireproof cooking bowl by hollowing out shale. Into it goes water from the creek, filtered through fibrous moss, chunks of hair, crushed roots, and a pinch of mysterious green leaves. As the concoction simmers, you stir with a carved bone spoon, inhaling the aroma. Earthy, smoky, and faintly reminiscent of, hey, maybe I'll survive. You ladle out portions to the elders first, because they hold your fate in their creaky hands. Then, to Ajuk, then, at last, to yourself. The first spoonful is surprisingly, good. Not gourmet, but sustenance that reminds you how far you've come from burnt shoelaces and raw fish. You savor each bite, cheeks hollowing and refilling like a chipmunk in overdrive. Nangavda, clan initiation, acceptance through absurdity. Full-bellied and more confident, it's time to earn your place. The elders announce a final clan rite, the dance of the eclipse. Granted, there's no eclipse on the horizon, but anything with dance and rite in its name sounds official. You're handed a rattling pelvis bone and told to express your spirit. Under a slate-gray sky, the clan forms a circle. Laura stands to your right, Ajuk to your left, and a half a dozen grunting Neanderthals behind. A single torch flickers at the center. The initiation begins. You shake the bone like maracas, leap awkwardly, and grunt in time with Mara's thunderous stomps. Your limbs flail wildly, truly an epic spectacle of uncoordinated enthusiasm. Yet, by some miracle, your exuberance infects the clan. They join in, turning the circle into a chaotic whirl of furs and gleaming spears. At sweat-drenched finale, Grook raises his spear high and slams it into the ground. Silence. Then, unanimous grunts of approval. You have become one of them. In Neanderthal, that means good spearman, funny dance, not dinner. Eindavde. Final challenge, the great hunt. Within, to crown your transformation, you're tasked with guiding a small hunting party. The quarry, a giant muskox that marauded too close to the cave entrance last night. You stride out at the lead, armed with your now properly fashioned throwing spear, flint head replaced after last night's fiasco. Your heart pounds as you locate the ox by its ragged footprints. You coordinate the ambush, 3 hunters on flanks, 2 drawing its attention, and you, yes, you, in the center, ready for the decisive throw. Time slows. You grip the spear, take aim, and hurl. It whistles through the frigid air and thunks into the ox's flank. It staggers, roars, then collapses in a cloud of vaporous breath. Ajuk and the others cheer, more grunts, less nuance. You stand over the fallen beast, chest heaving, mind reeling. In that moment, you realize you haven't just survived a day as a Neanderthal. You've thrived. You've navigated politics, mastered fire and tools, flirted, cured gingivitis, almost, and led a hunt. The clan hoists you onto their shoulders, parading you back to the cave in triumphant triumph. It's the ultimate welcome. Except, of course, there's no congratulatory party poppers or confetti, just the occasional grunt and a rain of frozen berries. 6th. Epilogue. Back to the future. Eventually, night descends on your final hour. The cave feels warmer, familiar, no longer an alien world, but a second home, however brutal. You sit by the fire, Laura and Ajuk beside you, and watch the stars pierce the dark sky. In your pocket, miraculously intact, you feel your smartphone, cold, lifeless, useless. You think of modern comforts, Wi-Fi, central heating, air conditioning, and that glorious thing called sleep. But for now, you close your eyes. Your mind drifts over the day's trials, the near woolly rhino charge, pregnancy taboos, diplomatic ice walking, and the grand hunt. You smile, because you conquered them all, at least for one glorious savage day. Soon, a shimmer in the corner of your vision calls you back. You're yanked from your cave by a force you can't explain. Ice cracks beneath your boots. The world tilts. You stumble forward, blink, and find yourself standing in modern daylight, the hum of traffic replacing direwolf howls. Your smartphone buzzes, 5 missed notifications, 3 emails, and a reminder to walk the dog. You exhale, looking down at your hands, no longer bloodied, but trembling at the memory. You laugh, ruefully. Yeah, I survived one day as a Neanderthal. Today, I'll survive my inbox. The end. Congratulations, brave traveler. You finished the ultimate Pleistocene crash course. If you ever think your life is hard, remember, Neanderthals had no subscriptions, no Amazon Prime deliveries, and definitely no seat warmers. And yet, they thrived. Stick around for more absurd historical nightmares. And until next time, stay warm, stay sarcastic, and remember, if you wouldn't survive as a Neanderthal, you probably also shouldn't try medieval dentistry. Hey guys, picture this. You're shivering so hard your teeth click like castanets at a flamenco festival, your breath fogging in front of you like a broken vape. And somewhere out there, a starving cave lion is eyeing your fuzzy silhouette as if it's the world's coldest and most delicious woolly mammoth. That, my friends, is just the first 15 seconds of your Ice Age nightmare. You stumble into the cavern mouth, eyelashes crusted with frost, and the reality hits you like an avalanche. No central heating, no hot cocoa, no way to order pizza when the weather's rough. Instead, the only available comfort is a damp pile of moss and the vague hope that the frozen dripstones above won't collapse mid-snooze. With that delightful image in mind, let's dive into why you absolutely wouldn't last a single night in an Ice Age cave. The chill of the deep dark. Your first instinct is to find warmth, so you grope for firewood in the gloom and promptly scratch every inch of your arms on jagged rocks. You gather sticks that are already half frozen, break them with a tendon-rattling crack, and attempt to bundle them together. No kindling, no kind gestures, just the desperate hope that friction alone will spark salvation. 2 hours later, you're rubbing sticks like a deranged woodpecker, palms bleeding, while Ajuk the seasoned Neanderthal lounges nearby, casually striking flint to spark a blaze in seconds. He glances over, smirks, and you realize even your gym membership won't prepare you for this primal workout. The fireless freeze. Eventually, miracle of miracles, you coax a sputtering ember into life. Flames lick at the air, but the fire pit is awkwardly shallow, so half your logs roll away into icy oblivion. You snatch them back, singe off a few eyebrows in the process, and inhale soot so thick your lungs protest like you've smoked 3 packs of tar-infused mammoth hide. Still, the flickering glow offers only marginal relief. The cave's curved walls trap the cold, and tendrils of frost creep across the stones, inching closer to your toes. You huddle nearer, but soon your legs go numb. You wonder, is this what existential dread feels like? Rocky bed, brutal rest. At last you settle onto your bed, a lumpy mound of leaves, animal pelts, and assorted debris. You pull out your smartphone, stare at its blank screen. No signal doesn't even begin to cover it, and tuck it under your head as a pillow. Night terrors kick in immediately, cracking stalactites, distant howls, and the memory of every horror movie you ever watched without adult supervision. You twist to find a comfortable position, but discover that every conceivable posture either impales you on a hidden pebble or chafes your joints raw. You start to write your will in your head, leave everything to your cat if you ever get back. The Hunger Games, Ice Age Edition. As hypothermia whispers sweet see you laters, your stomach grumbles louder than a sitcom laugh track. You have two options: subsist on handfuls of cold moss that taste like soggy cardboard, or venture into the freezing darkness in search of something. You choose something, because moss lacks calories. Grasping your bent spear, you tiptoe past Ajuk's snoring bulk and into the pitch-black hallway of the cave, where every echo makes you believe a saber-toothed tiger is stalking you. 10 minutes of skittering across slippery rock later, you spot a cluster of mushrooms, the kind your Neanderthal buddy swore were edible sometimes. You gobble them and immediately feel your guts gurgle like a coffee grinder. You sprint back to the fire, praying nothing lethal was in that batch. The firelight illuminates your panicked face. Mushroom poisoning never looked so stylish. Predator. Concerto. With your insides doing the conga, you think at least you're safe from large predators, until you hear the scrabble of claws on rock. A cave hyena, or worse, a lion, is investigating. You muster every ounce of courage, throw a burning log at the noise, and miss by a good 2 feet. The beast snarls back and you realize that in the Ice Age food chain, you're somewhere between puzzle and starter course. You beat your chest like a caffeinated gorilla, shout primal screams you didn't know you could produce, and watch as the creature vanishes into the shadows. Victory? More like a tie. You both backed off, each filing a mental note to avoid the other. Primitive plumbing problems. Back at your makeshift hearth, nature calls. You're on cave time, which means no porcelain throne, no toilet paper, just a chilly ledge and your dignity. You squat, shiver, and realize your bare cheeks are making intimate contact with intensely cold stone. Your muscles seize. You nearly topple into your own excrement. Crisis over, you clean up with bits of lichen that leave you feeling like you've just exfoliated with sandpaper. Looking down at your frostbitten digits, you make a silent vow never to complain about modern plumbing again. Nocturnal nerve shredders. Dinner and bathroom break complete, you return to your pitiful pile of furs. The fire is finally dying, embers sputtering like a broken headlight. You pile wet wood on it. It huffs, it wheezes, then surrenders. Darkness envelops you. An absolute blackout would be soothing if not for those intermittent drips of water falling miles away on a stalagmite, each plink loud enough to jolt your heart. You swear you see a pair of glowing eyes in the dark. It might be a bat, it might be the ghost of your extinct smartphone, or it might be a saber-toothed creature planning its midnight snack. Refrigerator, left open, your body. With no heater, your core temperature begins to plummet. Your teeth chatter at a machine gun pace, and your shivers become violent enough to make you question whether your bones will snap from the force. You wrap yourself tighter in furs, but they're half gnawed by rodents, and the lice infestation has your scalp staging a full rebellion. You flick at imaginary bugs crawling across your forehead, mumbling curse words that your ancestors definitely did not know. Sleepless in the Pleistocene sleep is a cruel joke. When you finally start to drift, every hallucination turns into a petrifying dream. You're back home, but the thermostat is set to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the walls drip with frozen tears. You wake in a panic, convinced that at any second your cave door will crash open, and your next roommate will be a hungry bear. Another 15 minutes of hypnic jerks later, you collapse into a fitful half-slumber, more like a seizure, which jolts you awake again. Rinse, repeat for the entire night. Dawn or doom. Suddenly, a pale light bleeds into the cave mouth. You squint. Morning? Or another ploy by the Ice Age gods to prolong your agony. Your body feels like a pretzel left out in the rain. Your muscles throb, your joints creak, and every breath feels like you've inhaled shards of ice. You scramble to your feet, wipe frost from your nose, and realize you've survived. Technically. But you also realize that the sun's rays carry no magic cure for hypothermia, frostbite, or the existential terror that courses through your veins. The hardest survival lesson. As the cave fills with pale blue light, Ajuk emerges from the shadows, blinking like a man who's just had the best night's sleep of his life. He looks at you, your hair frozen in icicles, your eyes glassy, and pats you on the back. "Not bad," he grunts. "You last night." You manage a weak thumbs up, too numb to speak. In that moment, you learn the hardest survival lesson of all. Modern comfort is a fragile miracle, and once stripped away, your mind and body fracture under the weight of primordial horror. Closing thoughts, until part 2. So there you have it, one night in an Ice Age cave, and you're a shivering, sleep-deprived, bug-bitten shadow of your former self. If you think roughing it on a camping trip is hardcore, try swapping your sleeping bag for a pile of prehistoric lice carriers, your thermos of hot tea for a cup of glacier melt, and your bear repellent for an untested stick of flint. Stick around for part 2, where we tackle the morning after rituals of Ice Age hygiene, the delicate art of mammoth hide tanning at sub-zero temperatures, and why even Neanderthal haircuts could kill you. Trust me, it only gets colder from here. The fire's embers have long since died, leaving you to greet the dawn with a stiff spine and an even stiffer attitude. Yesterday's nightmarish stretch of teeth-chattering terror has yielded to the morning after, an ungodly ritual that makes your post-college party cleaning hangover look like a spa day. Welcome to Ice Age hygiene, where scrub means rub your face in frozen moss and bath involves dunking head first into a frigid stream that laughs in the face of your primitive immune system. First order of business, oral eviction. Your mouth tastes like a mashup of scorched fur, congealed fish oil, and yesterday's questionable mushrooms. There's no toothpaste, only a rough twig chewed into bristles and dipped into fine ash. You scrub at your enamel until your gums bleed, then rinse with glacier melt, tasting minerals that could strip paint. It burns. Your teeth chatter not from cold, but because your nerves are staging a revolt. Yet, you emerge with a semblance of freshness. If fresh means slightly less likely to kill passing clanmates with halitosis. Next, hair, or what passes for it. Your mane of frozen dreadlocks has become a wildlife refuge for lice, mites, and the occasional adventurous tick. You have two options. Ignore it and hope predators are too polite to sniff you, or attempt a Neanderthal haircut. You settle on the latter, wielding a chipped flint blade like a wartime barber. One side of your head ends up with what suspiciously resembles a reverse mohawk, while the other looks more like a nest of angry snakes. Laura tries not to stare, but her eyebrow arching sends a clear message. Modern salons have nothing on this atrocity. Nonetheless, you feel lighter, as if each tufty clump you shear away releases a pound of existential dread. With your dental and follicular crises addressed, you turn to the great task of the morning. Hide tanning. Yesterday's kill of the wily hare now sits in your lap in the form of a stiffened pelt. In modern life, tanning involves chemicals, vat baths, and half a graduate degree in chemistry. Here, you rub the hide with pulverized bark and animal brains, a method Ajuk swears by for softness. The mixture smells like rotting salad, yet you knead it into every fiber until your gloves resemble a post-apocalyptic French pastry gone horribly wrong. You clip and stitch excess hide into insoles for your cave shoes, hoping that your newly crafted footwear won't disintegrate at the first step. As the sun reaches its mid-morning peak, bearing in mind the Ice Age sun is more of a pale smudge, you venture outside to gather lichen and mushrooms for that all-important morning porridge. You maintain a strict if it looks questionable, don't eat it rule, yet find yourself forced to loosen it thanks to dwindling rations. You identify a patch of yellowish fungus that vaguely matches Ajuk's safe list, scoop a handful, and swallow. Within minutes, your stomach gives a theatrical performance worthy of the finest Roman amphitheater. Roars, gurgles, and a dramatic belch that echoes off the cave walls. It isn't lethal, but it's close enough that you vow never to trust a grammar-light Neanderthal field guide again. Meanwhile, the clan's daily panic attack over predators drum rolls to life. Yesterday's near miss with the cave hyena has prompted Gruk to choreograph a new defense strategy. Rotating watch shifts. Your shift falls during the witching hour, just after midnight, when darkness is an oily black and hunger-driven beast's prowl. Tonight's plan, perch atop a ledge with a torch, spearlings at the ready. You mentally draft your acceptance speech for most likely to be mistaken for bear bait, then remind yourself that at least you've survived this long. Back at the cave entrance, you join Ajuk and Mara to erect a scaffold of sharpened stakes, pointy logs angled outward like a woodland hedgehog. Their purpose is to intercept any charging megafauna. You sweat under fur layers despite the chill, lobbing stakes into the ground at angles that occasionally rebound and smack you in the shin. You grunt apologies, wipe blood from your leg, and realize that defense in the Ice Age is a contact sport. Once the perimeter is fortified, you turn to communal cooking, today's lesson in Pleistocene gastronomy. Ajuk retrieves a sizable bone from yesterday's muskox, hollowed into a crude ladle. You fashion a cooking vessel from large shell-like stones heated by the dying embers. Into it goes water, bits of mammoth fat, for flavor, and unspeakable root vegetables that grow only in the shadow of icy cliffs. You stir with a charred branch, watching the stew bubble and hiss. The aroma is earthy. You ladle bowls for the elders first, then the hunters, and finally, at last, you. The first spoonful hits your tongue like hot lava through your frost-numbed gums. It's not gourmet, but it's survival in a bowl, and you savor the warmth that spreads from your chest outward, a tiny rebellion against the relentless cold. Midday arrives, and the light brightens the barren landscape to a pale gray wash. You and Ajuk set off on a wood-gathering expedition, vital for maintaining tomorrow's fire. The forest beyond the cave is stark, skeletal trees twisted by wind, branches stripped of leaves, and snowpack that could swallow you if you misstep. You haul 2 hefty logs on your shoulder, lumbering like a prehistoric pack mule. By the time you return, sweat has frozen on your brow, only to thaw into trickles of icy torture. You collapse near the hearth, gasping for air that feels thicker than molasses. While you recover, Laura approaches with a splash of berry juice. Neanderthal blush. She gestures that you should accompany her to the cave's inner chamber, where a fresh pool of spring water drips. She demonstrates the art of cave bathing, kneeling on a flat rock, cupping water in your hand, splashing your face, and using coarse lichen as soap. You follow suit, rubbing at your arms until raw, then rinse. It's brisk, bracing, and borderline masochistic, and yet, when finished, you feel oddly renewed, at least until you examine the scratches along your forearms and wonder if you've traded one itch for another. Afternoon slow crawl brings a challenge deeper than grooming or sustenance. Social bonding. The clan gathers for story time, when elders recount the great hunts of yesteryear. Their grunts, gestures, and rough sketches on the cave wall tell tales of colossal mammoth hunts, fierce battles with bears, and the origins of fire itself. You sit cross-legged, feigning attention, while your mind drifts to Netflix documentaries you've never watched. Suddenly, Mara pokes you. She's passing around lumps of ochre for paint. Today's craft, adding your own mark to the ancestral mural. You dip a finger in crimson dust mixed with saliva, press it to the wall, and leave the world's worst prehistoric thumbprint. The elders nod appreciatively, as if to say, a plus for effort, F for artistry. As dusk looms, the icy air grows heavy with anticipation of another sleepless vigil. You join the night shift, torch in hand, eyes scanning for reflections in the gloom. Minutes stretch into hours. You stand statue still, wishing for the clarity of a modern security camera feed. At one point, a flock of snow bunting swoops past, startling you so badly you nearly hurl your torch into the abyss. You catch it at the last second, heart pounding like a tribal war drum. No saber-tooth in sight, just a cloud of feathery confusion. By the time Ajak's grunt signals the end of your watch, your legs feel like jello left out in sub-zero. You slump onto a rock, torch sputtering out immediately. The cave returns to oppressive darkness. You squint but see nothing beyond the faint glow of distant stalactites. You drag yourself back to your sleeping spot, pull the slightly less damp pelt over your shoulders, and close your eyes, knowing full well that today's battles are a mere prologue to tomorrow's. Before sleep claims you, you reflect on the day's lessons, mastering antiseptic lichen baths, crafting pointy deterrents for hungry beasts, and emerging, if only by a thread, from the claustrophobic grip of Ice Age discomfort. You pat yourself on the back, careful not to disturb the lice, whisper a quiet, not bad for a modern wimp, and steel yourself for the next dawn. Because part 3 awaits. We're diving into predator call mimicry, saber-toothed lion slaying myths, and the exquisite torture of keeping your hide cloak dry during a volcanic ash storm. Spoiler, it only gets darker, colder, and infinitely more absurd. By the time the third ice-cold dawn crawls over the horizon, you've already survived 2 brutal days and 2 bone-numbing nights. Congratulations? Not yet. Today's gauntlet, mastering predator calls without sounding like a deranged goose, unraveling saber-toothed lion myths that would make any modern YouTuber cringe, and, because misery loves company, keeping your hide cloak dry in an unexpected volcanic ash shower. Let's leap into the deep freeze. Predator call karaoke. First up, predator call mimicry, the clan's unconventional tactic for territory defense. Instead of sharpening more spears, Grook insists on scaring off intruders by impersonating their own foes. Yesterday's experiment involved Aju growling like a woolly rhino, somehow effective but also horrifying if you love rhinos. Now it's your turn. The master of ceremonies, Mera, demonstrates the art. Inhale sharply, purse your lips, and emit a low-frequency roo-oo that echoes through the cavern like a subterranean foghorn. You try it. What emerges sounds less like a rhino and more like a cat stuck in a wind tunnel. The clan stares. Laura covers her ears. Even the hideous hyena remains unimpressed. Yet, duty calls. You traipse to the cave mouth, hunch over, and deliver your best roo-oo. The echo answers back, with a distinct chittering laugh that you suspect belongs to a troop of nearby snow monkeys. You cringe, but Mera nods solemnly. Effective, she grunts. Translation: terrifying for you. Over the next hour, the clan cycles through croaks, howls, and roars. A distant pack of dire wolves retreats at the unexpected cacophony. A win! Your cat-in-one tunnel routine, however, elicits more curious glances than fear. But hey, if you can't be brave, at least you can be memorable. Saber-toothed lion hunting myths debunked. Next, the saber-toothed lion saga. The elders gather to recount the legendary duel between Grook's grandfather and Talon Fung, the saber-tooth that terrorized Three Valleys. Their version, one-on-one, hand-to-fang combat, resolute hero jabbing spear until the beast collapsed in respectful defeat. Spoiler, no one ever questioned the logistics. How does one spar with a creature that weighs as much as your car? You volunteer to reenact the myth for added historical accuracy or comedic relief, whichever comes first. Armed with your best spear, you charge at a hapless boulder covered in ice moss, the closest facsimile of a saber-tooth you can find. You lunge, shout, and slip. Your feet fly out from under you, sending you sprawling face first into snow. The spear skitters away, lodging itself in the rock with a satisfying thunk, but pointed at your half-naked backside. Your rump burns hotter than the forge in a blacksmith shop. The clan bursts into guttural laughter. Even Grook cracks a grin. You bow, accept the ridicule, and vow never to challenge a 600-pound cat again, and certainly not without traction. Volcanic, ash, spa, treatment. As if atmospheric hostility weren't enough, the region's dormant volcano chooses this moment to belch ash. Dark clouds swirl overhead, and fine powder drifts into the cave like macabre snow. Your hide cloak, your only insulation, lies spread out for airing, and it's now blanketed in gritty ash. The clan reacts with panic. Soaked cloak equals frozen carcass. Time to improvise. You erect a crude frame of sapling branches near the hearth, drape the cloak over it, and harness every ember to create indirect heat. Ajuk fans the embers into glowing coals. Sparks rise, dancing in the falling ash. You knead the cloak, flicking ash away with gloved hands, but the finer particles cling like demonic dandruff. Laura suggests rinsing it in the stream, an option that will turn your cloak into a block of ice. Instead, you whisk the cloak back and forth before the fire, allowing hot air to whisk ash downward. After an eternity of huffing and puffing, you reclaim a barely serviceable cloak that still smells of smoke, ash, and bitter regret. Survival hack? More like why did I ever volunteer hack. Mastering the cave conference. With cloak crisis averted, you're summoned to the mid-afternoon cave conference where the clan debates future strategy. Topics include expanding hunting grounds without waking a hibernating bear, rationing mammoth fat for winter lamps, and whether to attempt cross-cave ziplining on braided vine. You sit cross-legged, nodding sagely, though inside you're drafting your resignation from clan advisor. Mera tosses you a mammoth bone stylus and bark scroll, expecting your notes. You scrawl indecipherable marks, then realize your tribal handwriting is worse than your predatory roars. The elders inspect it, grunt in approval, possibly pity, and file your input alongside centuries of indecipherable scribbles. You've made history, sort of. Dinner with a side of existential crisis. The sun sinks fast and it's time for the evening meal. Tonight's menu, fermented fish entrails with a garnish of stale tubers. The fermentation process smells like a mix of gym socks and volcanic gas, yet you choke down a handful, cheers to probiotics. You chew thoughtfully, reflecting on how modern life's woes, bills, deadlines, bad Wi-Fi, pale in comparison to the daily buffet of existential threats in the Ice Age. As you eat, the cavern walls darken and shadowy shapes twist in the torchlight. You remember your smartphone's comforting glow, then blink back to reality. Smoky embers are your only screen, and the algorithm here is pure survival. It's strangely grounding. Nightfall. The gauntlet continues. Night 3 looms, a stretch that promises your stiffest test yet. While your clanmates prepare for yet another vigil, you steel yourself for an unholy cocktail of frostbite, predatory inquiries, and volcanic ash-induced respiratory distress. You glance at Ajuk, who merely shrugs as if to say, "Welcome to Tuesdays." Laying out your bedding, ash-cleaned cloak plus lichen, you lie down, attempt deep breaths, and focus on positive affirmations. I am strong. I am resilient. I am definitely going to delete vacation photos of the Bahamas. Just as you feel the edges of sleep tugging at you, a distant rumble, earth tremors signaling more volcanic activity, shakes the cave floor. You jolt up, heart pounding, convinced the next moment will be your last. But the tremor subsides, leaving only the acrid tang of ash and the relentless cold. You settle back, feeling every shattered bone in your body protest the position. A trickle of moisture drips onto your forehead from a stalactite overhead, and you catch it on your tongue. Icily perfect, yet utterly meaningless in the grand struggle. Tomorrow's dawn may bring relief, or it may usher in a new round of Ice Age horrors. Impromptu glacier crossings, thermal spring negotiations, and the final showdown with your mortal enemy. Stone Age mites on your brows. But for now, you cling to the fragile hope that sheer absurdity can carry you through. After all, what doesn't kill you probably just leaves frostbite scars and a better story for the next viral video. Stick around for part 4, where we conquer cave art, unleash the roar of fury falsetto war cry, and attempt the impossible, a hot bath without boiling water. Spoiler, it may involve live steam vents in the nearly eternal wrath of Grook. You've survived 3 shivering dawns, 3 terror-laced nights, and enough frostbite close calls to qualify as an unofficial Ice Age tour guide. Now, brace yourself for the grand finale. Cave artistry that'll make Picasso weep in confusion, a soul-shredding war cry workout, and the audacious quest for a steaming bath without boiling water. Grab your chipped flint and let's finish what we started. 1. Cave art. Masterclass. Finger painting with animal fat. Long before Instagram, Neanderthals communicated via cave walls. Today, you're commissioned to leave your mark in the Great Hall of Prehistory. Your medium, a paste of ochre, charcoal, crushed berries, and copious amounts of rancid animal fat. Your canvas, a vaulted limestone chamber lit only by sputtering torches. You dip a twig into the slurry, instantly reminded why you wash dishes with soap, and begin sketching. First subject, the critter that nearly made you its dinner, the woolly rhino. Your lines waver, it looks more like a startled hippo wearing horns. Laura giggles behind you, offering pointers. Add more angle to the horn. Tusks curve like this. You modify. The result? A surrealist nightmare that even the elders can't decipher. Undeterred, you switch to handprints. Classic I was here signatures. You press your soot-stained palm to the wall, leaving a blotch that resembles spilled ink. The clan nods in approval. In Neanderthal, that means, wow, you smeared yourself. Still, you feel a sense of immortality. You may face extinction, but your palm art will endure. Dusra, the roar of fury falsetto workout. Next, Grook demands a demonstration of the ultimate war cry, a multi-octave bellow meant to intimidate both rival clans and passing saber-toothed lions. You're handed a hollow bone resonator, like an Ice Age megaphone, and instructed to channel your inner beast. Step 1. Inhale so deeply your ribcage threatens to split at the seams. Step 2. Tense every facial muscle. Step 3. Let loose. What emerges is a pitiful squeal reminiscent of a drowning baby mammoth rather than the earth-shuddering roar you envisioned. The clan cocks heads, unsure if you're summoning allies or inviting predators. Mara rolls her eyes. "Again!" she commands. You try again, this time warping through 4 notes until you hit a passable growl that rattles the bone. Grook grunts in approval. It's more than you dared hope. You bow, chest heaving, proud that you can now shatter eardrums on demand. Moondrum, the steamy bath expedition. Having endured 3 nights of lichen exfoliating showers, you're desperate for something hot. The clan recalls geothermal vents near the north wall, where steam escapes from fissures. The catch? The path is slick with volcanic ash, and vent fumes can scald. You don only the driest furs you own, all 2 of them, because steam and wet hides won't mix. Armed with a bent spear and a leather water skin, you trudge toward the back of the cave system. Each step kicks up ash. You cough until your lungs protest. At last you hear the hiss, steam escaping rock. The ground puddles with muddy, sulfur-tinged water. You kneel, test with a cautious finger, scalding. You pull back, then inch forward, dousing your hand and wincing. Finally, you plunge your head under the steam plume, an astonishing shock of heat that sears your nostrils. You duck out, gasping, then repeat, managing 3 seconds of bath before sprinting back to cooler rock. Your scalp glows, your pores fully unclogged, probably, and you feel reborn. Laura smirks. "You look like boiled mammoth." You grin. "Worth it." Nangavda, the mammoth tusk trophy ride. To commemorate your conquest of Ice Age hygiene, you're awarded a symbolic steed, the skull of a recently felled mammoth, with tusks intact. The plan: strap your cloak around the cranium, sit in the eye socket, and slide it across a ridge of snow like a prehistoric sled. You clamber up the icy slope, tusks snagging on rock. You position yourself, grasp the bone ridge, and push off. Gravity does the rest. You glide 10 glorious seconds before the tusks catch on an outcrop, flipping you head over heels. You land in a snowdrift, dazed, tusk wedged in your armpit. Ajuk hauls you up. You stand, dripping but triumphant. You've ridden your own trophy. The clan hoots, and you vow never to wear white fur again. Eindaude, final fire maintenance relay. Before your departure, you must prove your fire-tending prowess one last time. The elders stage a relay. Each clan member must carry a torch segment from the hearth to a distant tinder cache and ignite it within 10 seconds without letting their embers die. Your turn. Flame in hand, you jog across jagged stones, waving too vigorously to keep the fire contained. Sparks fly. One lands on your pant leg. Panic. You sprint to the pile of tinder, dry moss, jab the torch into it, and miss. You swirl, hyperventilating, until the ember reignites, flickers, and flames. You leap back, pumping fists. The clan erupts in guttural applause. Yonet, you've earned your keep. 6. The farewell feast and parting wisdom. Night falls one final time. The clan assembles for the farewell feast. Chilled mammoth stew, reheated over embers, roasted roots and fermented berry mash. They pass around a communal drinking bowl, a carved antler horn filled with warm water spiced with pine needles. You sip cautiously, it's bitter but life-affirming. Grook lifts his antler high and grunts a toast. To the last modern fool who thinks winter camping is fun. Mara adds, "May your future beds have mattresses." Lura kneads your shoulder, smiling in that infuriatingly comforting way. You raise your horn in response, spilling half on the cave floor. Perfect. They press upon you a small pouch, powdered lichen for emergencies, sharpened flint shard for defense, and a strip of mammoth fur for warmth. You strap these to your belt and feel, just for a moment, like you might survive what comes next. 7. The return trip. Back to modernity. As the first purple light of pre-dawn seeps in, you step to the cave mouth. You inhale the crisp air, so clean you nearly weep. You lift your torch high, embers drift skyward and vanish. Then, the familiar yet surreal vibration. Your smartphone buried in your coat pocket pings with a notification. You blink, adjust to the sudden onslaught of modernity. Traffic noise, distant voices, the hum of electricity. You find yourself standing beside a national park trailhead, tourists in puffy jackets snapping selfies. One passerby offers you a granola bar. You accept, unwrapping that waxy rectangle like it's manna from heaven. You take a bite. It tastes of victory. Epilogue. Lessons from the Ice Age. You walk away from the cave, every fiber of your being buzzing with relief and pride. You learn that survival is more than tools and fire. It's art, absurdity, and a dash of showmanship. You wring out your fur gift, tuck your lichen pouch in your pocket, and swear never to take hot showers or heated floors for granted again. If you ever doubt your resilience, remember, you lasted 4 days in an environment that defines extreme camping. You painted masterpieces in darkness, bellowed like beasts, and bathed in steam vents worthy of Dante's Inferno. Today, you return to Wi-Fi, warm beds, and central heating. Tomorrow, you might even go back to complaining about slow elevators or tepid coffee. But in your heart, or at least in your thigh muscles, you carry the spirit of the Ice Age. And whenever life gets too cushy, just whisper to yourself, "Could be worse. I could be living on lichen and ash." Then fire up the space heater, brew a mug of hot chocolate, and salute your inner Neanderthal. The end. Hey guys, imagine waking up to the screech of a raven perched on your meat barrel, your muscles aching like you've wrestled a berserker in your sleep, and your breakfast options are either cold porridge or that suspiciously fermented fish you borrowed from last night's raid. That's day one as a Viking Shieldmaiden. No fluffy pillows, no protein bars, just iron, ice, and inexplicable guilt over stealing someone else's salted herring. Before you raise your battle axe or panic buy a fur-lined bra, buckle up. We're diving headlong into the brutal, bizarre, and borderline poetic nightmare of life as a Viking warrior woman. The dawn of frost and fury. You jolt upright on your makeshift bed, a thick pile of animal pelts laid atop moss-stuffed sacks, and the chill slaps you awake faster than a Jarl's decree. There are no curtains to keep out the morning sun. Instead, dawn's pale light seeps through a narrow slit in the timber walls. Your breath forms little clouds that hang in the air, like miniature northern lights. You stretch, hoping the stiffness in your back magically vanishes. It doesn't. Instead, it feels like your spine has been rearranged by a drunken blacksmith. Climbing to your feet, you tug on layered woolen garments patched so many times that your tunic resembles a medieval quilt. Beneath your rough linen underdress, you secure a leather corset reinforced with strips of boiled bone. Think shapewear, Viking edition. Next, trousers of thick wool, leggings of braised leather, and the pièce de résistance, steel-toed boots lined with sheepskin. It's a fashion statement that says, "I'm ready for battle," or a terrible blizzard, and probably both. Breakfast of champions and traitors. You shuffle to the long, scarred wooden table where your fellow Shieldmaidens line up for breakfast. There's no avocado toast or kale smoothie here. Instead, you're presented with a wooden bowl of porridge, stale barley boiled in goat's milk. It's gritty and gritty again. If you're lucky, you can pile on a dollop of honey from the Jarl's mead stock, but most mornings, you scrape at the porridge's surface with a wooden spoon, cursing your ancestors' dietary habits. Beside the porridge sits a small stack of flatbread, hard as a ship's oar and twice as crumbly, and a slab of salted cod. You rip off a chunk of bread, spread the cod on it, and bite down. The salt crystals crack between your teeth like tiny daggers. You wash it down with a gulp of cold water from the well outside, then force yourself to swallow, because nothing says good morning like residual fish aftertaste with an undertone of algae. The morning muster, weapons and wardrobe. Breakfast, if you can call it that. Done. You march to the armory, a half-frozen wooden shed lined with racks of axes, spears, and shields. Your go-to weapon is a round shield emblazoned with your clan's crest, a snarling wolf's head, and a one-handed axe whose handle is carved with runes promising vengeance. You pick them up, the shield strap cuts into your forearm, and the axe's head rattles ominously. You give both a respectful nod, like a warrior saluting her steed. Next, training. Outside in the courtyard, you line up with the other women, each nursing bruises that could star in a saga. The drill sergeant, a hulking woman named Gudrun Iron Fist Bjornsdottir, blows a horn and orders you through the paces. Shield wall formations, axe throws at moving targets, and the dreaded endurance run. You sprint across uneven ground littered with stones, ankle-deep mud, and the occasional severed animal hoof, left from last week's hunting practice. Your lungs burn and your calves threaten mutiny, but you push through because surrender isn't in the Norse vocabulary, and besides, Iron Fist has an impressive ability to glare at you in 7 different dialects of displeasure. Lunch break. Sort of by midday, you've earned a begrudging break. Lunch consists of cold venison strips and pickled turnips. You attempt a conversation with your neighbor Astrid, who's busy fashioning a new leather belt using only her teeth and a bone awl. Got any news? You ask, hoping for juicy gossip. Maybe the Jarl's son finally got engaged, or the Aesir have downgraded their thunderbolt supply. Astrid shrugs. The farm's out of meat again. This is the scandal du jour. Mead shortages are worse than wolf attacks. You both sigh, chew, and drift off, briefly dreaming of cheese. Radio silence and Raven reports. In the early afternoon, the Ravens return with news. A messenger, Raven that is, drops a parchment tied to its leg. You unfurl it with greasy fingers. The Jarl demands a council at sundown to plan the next raid. The target? A wealthy monastery across the sea, rumored to house relics and gold enough to fund your clan's winter feasting for a decade. You swallow, summoning your best "yes, Jarl" grunt. The Raven caws impatiently, as if to say, "Hurry up, I've got 9 siblings to deliver messages for." You pet its feathers, gingerly, because they smell faintly of carrion, and let it loose. Afternoon drudgery meets Viking horror. Until sundown, you're assigned to maintenance duties, a delightful term for repairing siege ladders, sharpening blades, and mending bloody linens from yesterday's skirmish. You haul a wooden wheelbarrow filled with iron shards, trip over a loose plank, and nearly impale yourself on a rotting spear tip. You grit your teeth, haul yourself up, and remind yourself that drudgery is simply heroic labor in poorly lit conditions. By late afternoon, the sky reddens like a spilled mead keg. You're covered in dust, blood, and regrets about choosing Viking life over a cozy bakery apprenticeship. But the horizon holds promise. The salty wind from the fjord brings news of incoming longships. You wipe your hands on your breeches, don your helmet, complete with intimidating horns, albeit historically dubious, and prepare for council. Hook closes, the calm before the storm. As you stand before the long wooden hall, you glance at the faces of fellow Shieldmaidens, determined, hardened, and probably thinking the exact same thing. If we survive tonight, maybe we can complain about leg day tomorrow. The sun dips below the pine-clad mountains, casting long shadows across the courtyard. In a few short hours, you'll be aboard a vessel rocking on icy waves, screaming battle cries under the moonlight, and frantically bailing water with a bucket shaped suspiciously like a skull. But for now, you catch your breath, tighten your gauntlets, and steel yourself for plans that will make kindergarten field trips seem like a stroll in the park. Because this is just the beginning of your life as a Viking Shieldmaiden. And trust me, you won't want to miss part 2, where we storm fortified walls, wrestle with seasickness, and discover that getting a war wound is somehow the most normal thing about this whole gig. Alright, strap on your greaves and sharpen that shield edge. Tonight, we raid. But first, let's wade through the glorious chaos of quarters, or drudgery, and that infuriating moment when you realize nothing quite prepares you for seasickness under a full moon. The Council of War, strategy over mead. You file into the great hall, the air thick with smoke, anticipation, and the faint aroma of yesterday's roast goat. The Jarl, a burly man with a braided beard so long it could double as a rope, stands at the head of a long table strewn with maps inked on animal hide. You and your fellow Shieldmaidens take your places, arms crossed, eyes narrowed, hearts pounding like war drums. The Jarl's voice booms. Tonight we strike the monastery of St. Olav's Haven. They sleep on gold, we shall wake them on steel. He points to a crude coastline sketch, rolling hills, slapdash walls, and an inlet deep enough for your longships. Beneath that, in shaky runed script, lies the sneak path, a marshy approach no man dares tread unless he's part frog. That's where you come in. Mirhild the Wraith, Harold's daughter, your stealth expert, nods. We'll slip in at low tide, she rasps. Walls guard the courtyard. We'll enter through the silted sewer mouth. It's narrow, stinks like a troll's feet, and you'll need to hold your breath for 20 heartbeats. I'll lead, Shieldmaidens flank me. You swallow down the bile settlers' call courage and grunt. Aye, Wraith. The Jarl smirks. Do not embarrass me. or else you'll fetch my privy water at dawn. The longship, baptism, oar, sweat, and saltwater council adjourned. You spill out into the dusk chill, hearts alight with excitement and that looming dread of public humiliation. You hurry down to the shore where your longship, Scotty's Fury, rocks gently. Its carved dragon prow snarls at the water as if itching for bedtime stories about spilled monasteries. Time for the oar muster. Your role, starboard rower, third bench from the stern. This position confers a special badge of shame. You're too high for the bow's glamour, too low for the rhythmic pride of the center. You grasp your oar, a 12-foot slab of oak, and clamp your feet into slippery footholds. The helmsman, Ulv Whale-Eye Gunnarsson, calls out cadence. 1, 2, 3, 4, heave. At first, the collective effort feels almost graceful, synchronized, powerful, like some manic ballet of destruction. Then the seas slap your calves, cold enough to freeze ale mid-swill. Waves drench your boots, salt water seeps between every clothing seam. By 15 minutes in, blisters bloom on your palms. Lower back screams murderous curses and your throat cracks from bellowing heave 400 times. Worst of all, the moonlight catches something in the water, your reflection, pallid and eyes wild. You realize you're basically a fish graveyard ornament, and the fish owe you nothing. But you lean on, driven by the promise of plunder and the equal opportunity humiliation that awaits you if you slack. Approaching the shore, silent chaos. At last, the grip of the ocean loosens. You step onto slimy planks of mud flats, the longship's keel grinding onward. Each step is an exercise in ankle fitness. Twist the wrong way, and you're belly first into medieval muck. Mirror-hilled signals, hands pressed to lips, and you crouch behind sacks of grain meant as bait for the monastery goats. From here, you glimpse the target, timber walls 4 meters high, torches flickering lazily, and what appears to be an enormous bonfire of marshmallow piety. With a final breath of the cold night, Shieldmaidens haul up makeshift grappling hooks, coils of rope tipped with anchoring iron claws. You lob yours. It clangs against palisade planks and hooks with a reassuring clink. Others follow. Within moments, a vine of ropes dangles like wraith limbs, waiting to pull something down. The climb, bruises, bark, and battle, prelude. Scaling a medieval wall is about as pleasant as belly flopping onto gravel. You clamp gauntleted hands onto the rope, feel it chafe through leather and inch upwards. Branch stubs jut out, tearing at your jerkin. Stones crumble beneath your boots. Halfway up, the wind whips through, nearly yanking you off. Your grip slips, heart flails, and you clamber back, heart thunderous, cheeks flaming. Below, Shieldmaidens wrestle with more ropes. Emirhild lands silently on top. She drops a hand to help you. You latch onto it and scramble up. Atop the wall, your first glimpse is worth every blister. The monastery courtyard, silent and bathed in moonlight. Stone columns glinting like ivory teeth. Your heart flutters. At that moment, the Jarl's horn pierces the air. Raid begun. Infiltration. Squeezing through the sewer mouth, living up to the Wraith moniker, Mirhild leads you to a crudely built stone archway at ground level. Water drips from it. Sewer, she purrs. Welcome. You peer in. A tunnel 3 feet tall and 2 wide rail-thin cobblestones slick with God knows what. You tighten your sword belt, hope it doesn't snag, and shimmy in, shield tucked under one arm. Inside, the stench is immediate. Rotting straw, crushing turd odor, and a hint of sulfur. You breathe through clenched teeth, counting beats. Wet feet skate on algae. You inch forward, as silent as your own heartbeat. Behind you, the clang of armor and muffled grunts. Your sisters in arms straggling along. One of them, Ingrid the Axe, Sigurd's daughter, curses under her breath when her chainmail catches, whips it loose, and a cascade of water splashes behind, threatening to alert midnight watchers. You freeze. Water flows down the tunnel's slight incline, and each bubble seems deafening, but no alarm bell sounds. You press on. The tunnel widens. A light seeps in from a loose grate above. You wriggle out into a small guard post, a stone room with half-drunken sentries, hoods fallen, swords slipping from slack grips. First blood, sabotage with a smirk. This is the moment. A room full of snoozing guards, implements of war at your fingertips, and an entire monastery sleeping 2 steps away. You whisper, silent takedown, behind the right ear. Ingrid nods, hefts her axe, and staggers in, too eager. She taps a guard on the shoulder. Guard stirs. Ingrid mutters, surprise, and swings. A single cleave, no flourish, quiet crunch, and the guard collapses into a puddle of stale wine and gore. You stifle a gasp. Pragmatism dictates you stab, not shout. Your dagger rises, plunges into the second guard's temple. He crumples. The room smells of blood and dung. Your pulse roars. 1 guard left, slumped in a mossy corner, snoring. You tap him with your boot. He wakes. You pinch his nostrils shut and press your shield to his mouth. Mmph, he wheezes. He goes limp. You slide him behind a low wall. All clear. The raid unleashed. Pillage, plunder, and pancakes. Emerging into the courtyard, torches alight on your arrival. Courtyard lights blazing. Men and women of the monastery blink up, eyes wide and stunned. You raise your axe. The cry goes up. Shieldmaidens! It's glorious. Shields raised, axes swung, the thunder of boots on stone. In under 5 minutes, the monastery is overrun. Chests cracked, relics seized, and at least 1 monk found hiding behind a sacrificial altar, shrieking about blasphemy and please don't touch the manuscript. You salvage a handful of coins, silver, chalices, and bizarrely 10 wooden spatulas. Monks liked pancakes. The retreat, speed, strategy, and stolen snacks. With booty secured, Meyerhild signals retreat. You scoot along the ramparts, drop into the sewer mouth again, and emerge at the walls. The tide has shifted. The mud flats have given way to shallow water lapping at your knees. The longship waits, oars twitching. You stagger across the inlet, ankles sucking, neon bright moonlight bouncing off the water. Just as you climb aboard, a lookout bellows, "Horsemen incoming." You glance back. A dozen clops rattle along the shore. No time for heroics. You grab a stolen oil lamp, hurl it at the mud flats. Bile yellow light arcs through the air, and it bursts in flame. The flicker buys you precious seconds. You dive for an oar. The crew pushes off. Shields screech against hull planks as you row for your lives. High seas, euphoria, and drinks. Once beyond the reef, you catch your breath. Oars drop, hands clasp shields and axes, and the Jarl's hearty laugh rolls across the deck. He uncorks a horn of mead and passes it down the line. You gulp it, sweet nectar blissfully burning down your throat. You glance at the spoils, chalices clinking, coins glinting, and that bizarre spatula collection. You sip again. We may die of scurvy next winter, you think, but tonight we feast like gods. The hook for part 3. As you settle into the rhythm of the high sea, waves slapping, raven cries overhead, you realize the raid's only half the story. Next up, dividing spoils without someone mutinying over 1 silver spoon, dealing with seasickness-induced hallucinations. Are those kraken tentacles or seaweed? And explaining to the Jarl why you brought back 10 pancake spatulas. Spoiler, he's not amused, so rest those aching arms, dear Shieldmaidens. Part 3 invites you to the galley, literally, where you'll fight for stew rations, confront rumor-mongering ravens, and learn why refusing to bail water is a capital offense at sea. Until then, keep your axes sharp and your mead horns fuller. The Viking saga continues. Alright, crack your knuckles and prepare to dive into life aboard Scotty's Fury, where the real challenge begins, dividing the spoils without plunging into civil war, combating seasickness that makes the ocean feel like a bludgeon, and managing raven-based gossip that spreads faster than wildfire in a dry fjord. Grab your horn of mead. This is going to be a bumpy ride. 1. Dividing the spoils. Gold, chalices, and pancake spatulas. Morning light glints off the water as Scotty's Fury cuts through mist. Below deck, a long wooden chest lies open, brimming with glittering silver coins, jeweled chalices, religious relics, and, somehow, 10 wooden spatulas with inscriptions in Latin cursive. You peer in, astonished. Who thought pancakes were a sacrament? You mutter. Gudrun Iron Fist Bjorn's daughter, seated at one end, pops a coin between her teeth like a pirate, weighing it. Each Shieldmaiden gets 1 share. she bellows. She points at the chest's contents. You choose. Gold first, then chalices, then whatever these are. You eye the spatulas warily. One bears a carving of an angel flipping a pancake. Clearly the monks had a sense of humor. One by one, your sisters step forward. Astrid Bonebreaker grabs a heavy chalice, twisting it in her hands. Ingrid, the axe, scoops up a small pouch of coins and winks at you. Then it's your turn. You weigh your options. Coins will buy warmth for winter. Chalices fetch a high price. But the spatulas? They're essentially status symbols. Imagine the look on the Jarl's face when you present a pancake flipper in the Great Hall. You smile, pocket a handful of coins, and, on a whim, snatch one spatula. It feels absurd, but you know a good story sells better at the next feast. With shares allocated, Iron Fist seals the chest. If anyone tries to take more, they'll face the oar of justice, she growls, brandishing a spare oar like a bludgeon. You nod, hoping no one tests her threat. 2. The Kraken, or just bad sushi? Seasickness, woes. By mid-morning, the sea churns restless. What began as gentle waves now rise into rolling swells. The deck pitches beneath your feet, and your stomach performs acrobatics worthy of Odin's Valkyries. You grip the railing, eyes darting. Is that the bow of Scotty's fury, or your own breakfast making a tactical retreat? You stagger toward the rail, chin flailing. Salt water, you whisper. No aroma. Best dinner. You clutch at the wood as the horizon dips away and the world tilts again. Astrid reappears, holding a carved bowl of thin gruel. Try this, she offers. You accept it with trembling thanks and sip through gritted teeth. The bland barley mush coats your stomach, but your mind still sees tentacles in every passing wave. For the next 3 hours, you oscillate between sitting on a barrel, staring at the horizon, and lying on the deck, elbows pressing you into the wood like an unwilling splinter. Each time you think you found solid ground, the ship grinds into another trough and hurls you upward. Your once proud braid whips around your face like a mocking snake. You swallow bile with the stoicism of a stone statue, whispering to yourself, if this is how it feels, I never want to outride a storm again. Moondrum, raven rumors, gossip at 10,000 feet. As the day wears on and the sea calms, the ravens return, perched atop the mast in triumphant post-raid fashion. These winged heralds gossip among themselves in raucous caws, then dive toward the deck, each carrying scraps of cloth or stray coins caught in their claws. Ah, you think, tonight's rumors have arrived. Mirhild snatches a bit of embroidered linen from one raven. Unfolding it, she reads aloud, Astrid slept with the Jarl's son. A collective gasp ripples through the Shieldmaidens. Astrid's face goes pale. She's long denied any dalliance beyond mug lifting in the mead hall. That's slander, she hisses. He's married. I simply returned his cloak after last winter's hunt. Meanwhile, another raven drops a scrap embroidered with runes. Gudrun Iron Fist steals blankets at night. The murmur grows louder. Blanket theft is a capital offense among Vikings, right behind. Eating an entire goat without sharing. Iron Fist narrows her eyes, plucks the cloth, and shreds it underfoot. Let them say what they want, she growls. I earn every fleece. The tension hangs thick. Ravens flap away, likely pleased with their drama fuel. You glance at your spatula, considering tossing it to a raven with a note. Feed me pancakes, not rumors. Instead, you tuck it safely into your belt. In the unpredictable politics of a raiding fleet, gossip spreads faster than a wildfire in a peat bog. Best to keep your head down and your axe close. 4th, mid-raid. Repairs, wood, tar, and expletives. Even battle-hardened longships need TLC. By afternoon, the hull has taken a few scrapes against rocky inlets, and your oarlocks creak ominously. Grook orders a maintenance stop at a sheltered cove. You and a team of Shieldmaidens leap into cold water, hauling the ship ashore. The keel rests on smooth stones, and you set to work. Armed with tar, pitch, and a scrap of animal hide, you patch small leaks. Steam rises as hot pitch meets seawater. Your leather gloves melt in places, you swear fresh curses in Old Norse. Blisters bloom on your knuckles, and your every movement stinks of tar. By the time you're done, your hands are blackened and your hair is flecked with sticky droplets. Still, Scotty's fury rides higher in the water. Mission accomplished. Eindaude. Training the shore party. Discipline and drills. Before you weigh anchor, the Jarl decrees a quick shore drill. Disembark, form wedge, storm the beach. He commands. The wedge formation, a V of shields and spears, is your bread and butter. You line up at the point, shield raised, spear angled at the sky. At the signal, you surge forward into thigh-high water, the wedge cutting through surf like a blade. A band of target dummies, straw figures clad in ragged robes, awaits your assault. You thrust your spear, shield bash the next dummy, then whack the third with your axe. The impact reverberates through your arms, a satisfying thunderclap. You finish with a flurry of hops, kicks, and a triumphant roar. Iron Fist nods approvingly. Your wedge could breach any barrier, real or imaginary. 6. The calm, before the next storm. As the sun dips low, you gather on deck, leaning against the railing. The water is calm now, reflecting the sky's fiery hues. You sip mead from a stolen chalice, acutely aware of your absurd spatula poking from your belt. Around you, Shieldmaiden shares stories of the raid's highlights and lowlights. Who fell in the mud first, who lost a boot to the sea, who gallantly saved an entire chest of roasted goat from tipping over. You realize that beyond the gold and glory, these shared misadventures forge bonds stronger than any oath. The next raid may test you further, through storms, enemy fortresses, or the endless rumor-monger ravens. But tonight, you rest on triumph. You feel the ache in your muscles, the tingle of blisters, and the warm glow of mead spreading in your belly. This is Viking life, brutal, chaotic, ridiculously fun. Hook for part 4. Tomorrow, we face the ultimate test, navigating the labyrinthine fjords without modern maps, negotiating with a rival clan for passage, and a showdown against a sea serpent, or perhaps just an overgrown eel. Plus, decoding runic maps by torchlight and surviving a surprise ambush on land. Part 4 promises ship-rocking excitement in the resolution of your spatula destiny. Will it become a cherished relic or end up as kindling? Until then, may your shield stay intact and your mead horn never run dry. You thought the fjords were the worst obstacle? Think again. Today, dear shield maidens, we tackle the labyrinthine waterways without GPS, unless you count a slightly damp rune-inscribed tablet, parley with rival clans who treat hospitality like a rare spice, and face down mythical sea serpents, or at least, very large eels with delusions of grandeur. And of course, we'll finally decide the fate of the monastery pancake spatulas. Ready? Let's sail. Navigating by runic map and Raven's luck, dawn breaks gray and mist-shrouded as Scotty's fury slips into a narrow channel bordered by steep, forested cliffs. The Jarl unfurls the runic map, scratched onto birch bark by the clan's elder cartographer, whose eyesight and sense of scale were equally questionable. The runes suggest a left turn at the twin pine markers, but the ravens have eaten half the bark, and the remaining runes resemble a shopping list. You peer at it, squinting through salt-spattered goggles. So, we go left? You venture. The helmsman, Alva Whale-Eye, grunts decisively. Left-ish. You nod, mentally adding learn runes to your ever-growing to-do list. Meanwhile, above you, the ravens croak in glee, either mocking your navigational prowess or applauding the free entertainment. One swoops down, snatches a stray coin from the deck, and flaps off into the mist. You wave of a gauntleted fist in vain, pondering whether to start a raven-tipping service. But the chop of the oars continues, and the channel twists like a serpent's coil. Every sharp bend threatens hidden rocks. Every echo off the cliff sounds like the roar of an angry troll. You clutch your spear for moral support. After an hour of leftish steering, you spy the twin pines, one tall and straight, the other bent as if bowing in shame. You cheer quietly. See, I read runes. Only to find that the channel forks one cove earlier. An ill-advised sweep of the oars deposits Scotty's fury on a hidden sandbar, and you all lurch forward, shields clattering. You curse the cartographer's eye-hand coordination, shove off with poles, and then resume rowing, this time accompanied by Mara's narrations of past navigational disasters. By midday, you've charted the channel perfectly, once you backtracked past that sandbar 3 times. Success. Diplomacy in the fjords. meads, mistakes, and mutton. Emerging from the narrows, you find an inlet ringed with wooden huts, home of the rival Wolf-Tide clan. Their war banner, a snarling wolf clawing a longship, flaps arrogantly. The Jarl orders parley. You must secure passage through their waters in exchange for tribute. You disembark at a makeshift dock, heart pounding. These folk are known for sharp axes and sharper tongues, and in blood debt can mean anything from a friendly toast to impalement. Leading the delegation is Thorhild Ice-Eye Knutsdottir, her gaze cold enough to freeze mead. She offers a wooden bench carved from a single log, uncomfortable but symbolic of their hospitality. A large cauldron simmers nearby, filled with some unidentifiable stew that looks like fermented seaweed mixed with sheep fragments. It bubbles menacingly. You suppress a gag and sit. Thorhild presents her terms. Tribute of 10 coins, 1 chalice, and 2 pancake spatulas. A hush falls. You glance at your belt. 1 spatula stolen, 1 left. The Jarl frowns. We offer 9 coins, 1 chalice, and 1 spatula. He counters. Thorhild arches an eyebrow. Your spatula's humor has no place here, she snaps. Then it's 10 coins and 1 spatula. The Jarl grips his beard. Thorhild's lips curl, battle lines drawn. You step forward, mustering your most persuasive grin. What if we include the second spatula, but engrave our names on both, so each clan remembers this alliance forever? Thorhild studies your mud-smeared visage. After a tense beat, she nods. Agreed, so long as this alliance does not involve your ale sneaking into our horns. You bow, the Jarl signals victory. Overhead, a raven shrieks, possibly in protest. As tribute is handed over, coins exchanged, chalice clanked, spatulas ceremonially blessed, the Wolf-Tide clan offers you a small flask of spiced mead, an olive branch disguised as a liquor shot. You upend it and cough through the fiery aftertaste. Thorhild smirks. A true Viking's courage is measured in how they handle poison. She quips. You nod vigorously, thankful it hasn't killed you yet. The sea serpent, or giant eel. Showdown. Back aboard, and with tribute delivered, the channel narrows once more, and the water turns an inky blue. The helmsman warns of serpent signs, circles on the surface, missed oars, and fishermen's blank stares. You grip the railing as the first circle appears, a raised swirl, a ripple too large for a fish. Before panic sets in, a massive head bursts from the depths, a glistening eel-like creature with scales like pewter and orange eyes the size of bowls. Its jaws snap shut mere inches from your boot. The deck erupts in chaos. Some row frantically, others grab spears. You dive for your axe and step forward. With a warrior's cry, part triumphant roar, part "I wish I'd stayed home today," you heave the axe. It sails in a perfect arc, embedding in the creature's scales with a metallic thud. The serpent recoils, thrashes, and vomits a geyser of brine that drenches half the crew. You leap back, blade still quivering. Mara grips a spear, hurls it true. It pierces the creature's flank. You miss your chance for a second blow, watching instead as the serpent's death throes shudder the hull. The longship rocks like a cradle, and then the beast slides free, crashing back into the depths with a final splash that echoes like thunder. Silence falls, broken only by the drip-drip of seawater. The crew exhales in collective relief, and many in shock, because a serpent that size usually stars in travelers' tales, not actual seafaring. You wipe salt from your brow and mutter, "I knew I should have grabbed that spare pancake spatula as a helmet." The Jarl claps you on the shoulder. You, axe lady, have earned a feast. You accept the accolade with a stiff bow. Seizing shore, ambush at Drakkar's Bend. With the serpent behind you, the channel opens to a broad bay, Drakkar's Bend, where a hidden settlement of bandits preys on unwary travelers. The Jarl orders a swift raid, lightning strike, little fuss. At day's end, you lower the gangplank and charge ashore, shields overhead, war whistles high. The bandits, surprised to see a full contingent of Shieldmaidens, fumble for weapons. The fight is fierce but brief. Axes flash, shields crash, and the air fills with curses in 5 dialects. You engage the bandit chief, a wiry man with a filigreed dagger. He lunges, you sidestep, cleave his dagger arm, and finish with a single upstroke that sends him sprawling. His men flee like startled fish. You survey the hoof-littered battlefield, breathe in the scent of blood and victory, and realize you've just cleared a path for your fleet's safe passage. Battle spoils, a handful of silver rings, a battered horn, and, thankfully, no pancake paraphernalia. You stash the loot, nod to your sisters, and march back to the ships with the precision of a well-oiled war machine. The great feast and spatula apotheosis. That night, Scotty's fury anchors in a tranquil cove ringed with phosphorescent algae that glow like fairy lights. The Jarl summons you all for the post-victory feast, held on the beach under a canopy of stars. Long tables of plundered meats, roasted fish, and wild berry pies appear as if by magic. A massive spit-roasted boar dominates the center, smoke rising in spirals. As the Shieldmaidens gather, the Jarl raises both spatulas, one inscribed with your clan's crest, the other with wolf tides, and proclaims, "These spatulas shall hang side by side in the great hall, symbols of unity forged by steel into breakfast. Tools." A cheer erupts. Someone brings a stack of pancakes, likely improvised from ship's flour, and the spatulas come into action. You flip flapjacks in time to the war drums, each toss met with applause. The absurdity of it all strikes you. Tonight, spoons have been replaced by swords, and spatulas have bridged clan rivalries. You catch Thorhild's eye across the fire. She lifts a spatula in salute. You return the gesture, meat dripping, smile wide. In that moment, you feel the heart of Viking life. Fierce combat and unlikely camaraderie, mythic beasts and pancake diplomacy, all woven into one ridiculous tapestry. Saltwater soliloquy, reflections on survival. Later you wander to the water's edge, empty chalice in hand. The moon shimmers on the gentle waves, each lapping whisper reminding you of the trials faced. Sandbars, serpents, negotiations, and bandits. You dip your fingers into the cool sea, taste salt and something akin to freedom. You recall the first faltering steps through the fjords, the taste of rancid monk stew, the oppressive waves of seasickness, and now this triumphant hush. Your muscles ache, your armor is dented, and your soul is etched with stories that will grow taller with each retelling. You realize that survival isn't just about strength or cunning. It's a mosaic of absurdities, spatulas, serpents, and spa-like ambushes, all stitched together by grit and laughter. Departing at dawn, the voyage, home. At first light, Scotty's fury pushes off, sails unfurling like great white wings against the peach sky. You take your place at the oar benches once more, filling your lungs with the crisp morning air. Ahead lies the open sea, known waters, and the return journey, fraught with its own perils, surprise storms, freezer-like chills, and perhaps one last raven's message. You grip your axe, settle your shield, and row. Each stroke carries the weight of your experience, the camaraderie of Shieldmaidens, the sting of failure, the ecstasy of victory, and the pure, absurd joy of wielding a pancake spatula as a diplomatic instrument. Ahead lies home, longhouse, hearth, familiar faces, and you know you'll arrive transformed. But for now, you savor the rhythm of the waves, the whisper of the wind, and the knowledge that you've lived a saga worthy of skalds. Raven luck and runic maps, serpents and spatulas, tribute and treachery, all culminating in a feast that crowned your legend. May the mead flow, the shield stand tall, and your pancake flips always land perfectly. This is your life as a Viking Shieldmaiden, unforgiving, absurd, and endlessly enthralling. Farewell until the next grand adventure beckons beyond the horizon. Hey guys, imagine waking up with the sunrise on the Mongolian steppe, your horse snorting in your face like a caffeinated toddler, your bow slung over your shoulder, and your stomach already howling louder than a wolf pack at full moon, all before you've had breakfast. That first 15 seconds of your day as a Mongol horse archer are equal parts exhilarating and utterly terrifying. You blink open your eyes to an endless horizon of rolling grass, dotted with yurts that smell faintly of goat cheese and ambition. There's no snooze button here, just a cold bite of pre-dawn air and the realization that your job description involves shooting flaming arrows from a galloping horse while wearing layered furs and chainmail. Welcome to part 1 of your life as a Mongol horse archer, where we cover dawn rituals, gear prep, and your first shaky steps into archery on the run. Let's dive in. First, dawn patrol and the art of the frozen yurt. You bolt upright on your felt mattress. Yes, that flat slab of compressed sheep's wool, your spine crackling like a campfire log. Your first mission is yurt inspection. Check for rodent infestations, ensure the lattice walls haven't collapsed under last night's windstorm, and confirm the stovepipe hasn't leaked smoke into your face all night. You fling aside your felt blanket, nearly somersaulting over your bow case, and stumble toward the yurt door. Outside, a thin veil of morning mist cloaks everything in ghostly gray. Your breath puffs into the air, crystallizing instantly. You squint at the horizon, no coffee carts, just 12,000 horses grazing peacefully. If you consider a mob of snorty mobile lawnmowers peaceful, you smile thinly, recognizing that your only espresso is goat's milk tea boiled over a crackling fire. Still, there's a primordial thrill. This is your office view. 2. Breakfast of champions and the brave. Before you can mount your steed, you need fuel. The clan's cook, usually the oldest grandmother in camp, serves a steaming bowl of boudog, goat meat roasted with hot stones. Legend has it the goat was still mildly offended as it went into the stomach. You grab a wooden bowl, scoop up chunks of tender meat, and gnaw through sinew with the grim determination of a starving wolf. The broth is rich, oily, and slightly metallic, perfect for coating your esophagus against the steppes' biting wind. Beside boudog, there's a mound of boiled millet porridge sprinkled with fermented mare's milk curds. You pry at it with a wooden spoon, grimace at the tangy bite, and shovel it in. No sugar, no berries, just pure stamina in a bowl. You down a cup of tea brewed from yak dung-fired water and dried nettle leaves. It tastes like punishment, but hell, this is survival. 3rd gear. Check. Bow, quiver, and leather underpants. Breakfast done, it's time to prep your arsenal. You unzip your bow case, a fashionably scuffed leather wrap, and reveal your composite recurve bow, constructed of wood, horn, sinew, and ancient wizardry, or Mongol engineering. It's capable of blasting arrows through male and morale alike. You flex the limbs, listen for pops or creaks that spell you'll be unhorsed in battle. It sounds solid. You slap on your rawhide arm guard, strap your leather quiver across your back, and confirm you have at least 30 arrows. Balanced, feather-fletched, and engineered for aerodynamic perfection. You snag 3 extra fletchings from an old cache as backup. Under your mailed coat, you're wearing leather trousers called chug tie. Think snug medieval leggings with built-in shock absorbers. They're not stylish, but they'll save your thighs from saddle chafing. You tighten your leather belt, hook on a small hand axe for close combat, and check your dagger. Last thing you need is discovering you forgot your blade in the mud after an arrow reload spree. 4. Horse bonding, more than just a mount. Next, choosing your warhorse. Every Mongol archer has the pick of the herd, horses bred to survive on minimal grazing, tolerate ice storms, and gallop until their eyeballs rattle. You scan the dozen horses tethered near the yurt ring. One nods at you. Yes, horses have opinions, and you approach. You scratch its withers. It gives you a look that says, finally, someone who understands the importance of fresh oats. You slip on the saddle, adjusting the felt padding beneath to prevent rubs. The stirrups shift. You clamp your heels in place and mutter a diplomatic apology to the horse's flank. It snorts, you snort back, and both of you call it even. You mount fully, testing your balance. The saddle is high, designed to give you a steady firing platform at gallop, but it feels like sitting on a 2-foot-tall post. You sway forward, backward, side to side, and find your center of gravity. Satisfied, you urge the horse forward with a gentle squeeze of the calf. It responds, and suddenly you're moving across the camp at a trot that feels like a runaway carriage. Exhilarating until your nutsack remembers it's unprotected. Eindaude, warm-up rides and arrow drills. Your trainer, Batu Thunderclap Noyan, stands with arms folded. He's an imposing figure, broad shoulders, scarred face, and a perpetually amused glint in his eye. He shouts, "First, warm-up canter, then target practice at full gallop, then you may reload on the move or face my wrath." You nod and urge your horse into a smooth canter around the camp perimeter. The world blurs, yurts, smoke poles, children chasing goats. You focus on breathing, aligning your spine, and staying off the pommel. After 2 laps, legs burning like hell, you signal for full gallop. The horse explodes forward, muscles rippling, hooves drumming the ground like war drums. Ahead, a wooden target stands at 40 paces. You draw an arrow, notch it, raise your bow arm, and surprise yourself by releasing a near-perfect shot that thuds into the target's center. You grin through wind-whipped cheeks. Thunderclap nods, then barks. 2 more shots, linking reloads between runs. You remount the arrow to the string, fire again, then again, your heart pounding, arms burning, focus razor sharp. You nearly fall off on the 3rd reload, but the arrow flies true. 6th, tactical maneuvers, the shoot and retreat, drill. Next exercise, the famed Parthian shot, borrowed from Scythian ancestors and perfected by Mongol innovators. The drill, gallop toward a line of 5 targets, firing arrows as you approach. Then, at the last minute, pull up the reins, twist in the saddle, and fire back at pursuers, all without falling off. You charge forward. Arrow 1, clean hit. Arrow 2, grazing pepper, still enough to ruin someone's day. Arrow 3, scuff the wood, but hit. You rein in, twist your torso, and feel a heart-stopping moment of, I must not die here. You let arrow 4 fly backward, landing it square on target. Gravity-challenged adrenaline tugs you back to center. Arrow 5 sails backward into the dummy's eye socket. You slide to a halt, horse snorting with pride, or mockery. Thunderclap's grin is wild, mixing respect and astonishment. Yerum, midday, muster in the reality of Mongol logistics. After drills, you regroup at the muster point, a circle of 30 horse archers, each panting and dripping sweat into the dust. Thunderclap lectures on logistics, keeping horses fed, arrows unbroken, and bodies sane. He reminds you that a Mongol army on the move covers 60 miles a day on horseback, and no roads, no inns, no Starbucks. Your provisions, dried meat, flatbread, water skins, and the occasional herd of sheep to requisition. You nod, imagining marching into the next valley, looting, burning, and enjoying the spoils. All while your horse munches grass you prayed existed. 8. The first campaign, March, endurance over glamour. Finally, you mount for the first real campaign, and by real, we mean a week-long loop through hostile territory, dodging bandits, evading rival clans, and testing your endurance. You ride out of camp, arrows clinking, dust rising behind the hoofbeats. The horizon beckons, endless grass, jagged mountains to the north, and the smell of conquest in the breeze. As you trot past the last yurt, a child waves, calling, "Come back alive!" You offer a weak salute, knowing that alive in this context means still in one piece with enough arrows left to pose for that victory portrait. You press heels to flank, and your mount surges forward. That, dear viewers, is the beginning of your life as a Mongol horse archer. Dawn rituals in a frozen yurt, goat meat breakfasts, gear checks that could make a Spartan jealous, bonding with a horse bred for endless gallops, and drills that blur the line between sport and warfare. Stick around for part 2, where we tackle nocturnal sentry duty under starlit skies, bartering with wary peasants for supplies, and the glorious chaos of your first skirmish, complete with flaming arrows, war cries that shatter eardrums, and, occasional poetic horse collapse. Trust me, it gets more absurd from here. The dawn of day 2 on campaign breaks with a stab of cold and a chorus of snorts as 30 horses paw the frozen earth. Last night's campfire still smolders. Footprints crisscross the frost, and half the arrows you counted at sunset have vanished into the void. Today's itinerary: nocturnal sentry duty, haggling for provisions with suspicious peasants, and your first taste of real combat, complete with flaming arrows and horses that guy even the bravest riders quiver to mount. Let's saddle up. First, night, watch, frostbitten, vigil, and the ballet of shadows. You volunteer for the midnight watch, reasoning that the stars are beautiful and it saves you from the clamor of the dawn drill. By 10 p.m., all but the fire crew drift to sleep on their felt mats, noses buried in furs. You pull on extra layers, wool under leather, and take your post at the camp's edge, bow at the ready. The night air is deafeningly silent. No crickets, just the occasional whisper of wind across grass. You squint into the darkness, heart pounding at every twitch of a shadow. Your eyes play tricks. Horse silhouettes become marauding bandits, tree roots morph into enemy scouts. To stay awake, you recite your arrow drills out loud. Knock, draw, anchor, release, follow through. The echo of your own voice jerks you upright whenever you nod off. By 2 a.m., you've shot 3 imaginary targets and scared off a startled fox, who probably thinks you're a lunatic. At 4 a.m., relief arrives. Thunderclap rouses you, nods once, and takes your post without a word. You collapse beside the ember pit, grateful for sleep, however thin and spine-freezing it might be. Second peasant market, barter, bluff, and buckskin. By breakfast, your caravan has arrived at a small farming hamlet, perched on a wheat plain. The locals eye 30 armed riders with a mixture of awe and mortal terror. Your orders: secure grain, fresh milk, and any cheeses not nailed down. Payment: coins, silver jewelry, or the king even horses. You dismount at the market square, a cluster of carts laden with sacks, cheeses, and live goats bleeding for freedom. A gaunt peasant woman holds the reins of a plump goat. "That goat's worth 3 coins, she hisses. You counteroffer 2 coins and a promise of future protection. She snorts. Protection from whom? You lot? You flash your grinning teeth, jangle a pouch of silver, and retort, "From bandits, and from goat thieves." She eyes your horse's saddlebag. Maybe the coins aren't the main attraction. Finally, she relents. 2 coins and the goat. You lead it away, patting its rump. The goat bleats a note of betrayal. You promise to feed it oats when you're done. Next up, a barrel of fresh milk. The farmer demands 1 chalice per liter. You laugh a belly laugh. Our chalices taste better when filled with boot polish. He recoils, clearly unfamiliar with such humor. You suggest 3 coins instead. He stomps off, grumbling, and returns with 2 liters for 2 coins and a salted fish. You haggle the fish away with a sheep's fleece. By midday, your caravan is laden with supplies, plus a goat that keeps trying to nibble your bridle. Moondrum. Oath and iron, equestrian first skirmish. No sooner have you bridled your steeds than lookouts shout. Hostile riders approaching. 30 specks on the horizon grow into a ragged band of enemy horsemen, likely a rival clan or highway robbers. Imperfectly armed and half-fed, your unit nonetheless lines up in battle formation, a crescent designed to envelop the foe. You take your place at the flank, leather jerkin over mail, bow in hand, flared quiver at your side. The enemy charges, dust clouds swirling, murmurs of "they ride like maniacs" run through your ranks. At 30 paces, you draw a quiver full of arrows and loose them in a screaming volley. The sky darkens with fletchings. A few arrows find riders' shoulders, sending them tumbling. The rest wheel back, firing arrows that clang off shields or bury in earth around you. You urge your horse forward, cantering toward the skirmish's edge, unleash the famed Tumen twirl. A swift 180-degree pivot in the saddle to fire at pursuers while galloping away. 2 arrows fly true, knocking shields aside. Your horse squeals, but you hang on. The enemy falters, confused by the agile archers dancing around them. After 15 minutes of hit-and-run chaos, the rival band withdraws, either impressed or terrified. You rally your comrades, collecting spent arrows and checking horses for war wounds. Your first real taste of combat leaves adrenaline coursing and trousers splattered with horse sweat. Thunderclap claps you on the shoulder. "Not bad, horse whisperer. You didn't embarrass the arrow gods." You grin, wiping bowstring grease from your cheek. Nangavda, field repairs and the magic of horse tincture. Skirmish over, it's time for urgent maintenance. You discover 3 arrows snapped in half, 1 fletching torn, and your saddle stirrup buckle bent. Worse, your horse's leg is nicked, a shallow cut that'll fester if left untreated. You limp him toward the support wagons, where the camp healer, a grizzled old man with more herbs than teeth, awaits. He slices open a pouch of powdered plant resin, mixes it with boiled milk to create a paste, and slathers it onto your horse's wound. "Keeps out dirt. Magic keeps the rot away," he mutters. You watch, fascinated and vaguely horrified, as he wraps the leg in a linen bandage soaked in goat fat tallow. He nods, satisfied, and moves on to a rider with a twisted ankle. Medicine on the step is a blend of hope and necessity. Meanwhile, you lash 2 broken arrow shafts together with sinew and wind them with spare fletchings. MacGyver would be proud. You stretch your bow, test its draw, and find it holds. Good enough. Eindavda, twilight maneuvers, sunset charging drills. Late afternoon brings a final exercise, sunset charging drills against practice dummies. The course is a half-mile strip with 10 straw figures standing at irregular intervals. At the signal horn, you launch forward, loosing arrows at each dummy as you pass. The goal, 10 hits in under 30 seconds. Your heart hammers as you gallop in. Dummy 1, bullseye. 2, bullseye. 3, arrow grazes arm. 4, arrow buries in chest. 5, clean hit. 6, barely nicks head, strategic low shot. 7 and 8 snapped, so you draw your dagger, slash the scarecrow's necks, and move on. 9, arrow flies true. 10, you lean forward and let fly a back-turned shot that miraculously lands in the last dummy's rib cage. You smash to a stop, horse trembling, lungs on fire, adrenaline crackling through every limb. The camp erupts in cheers. Thunderclap laughs, handing you a flask of spiced mare's milk. "You're learning," he says. You swallow gratefully. 6. Nightfall. Campfire. Tales, toasts, and goat betrayal. As dusk envelops the plain, riders gather around a roaring fire. The goat you rescued earlier bleats mournfully, tied nearby as both meal and mascot. You roast chunks of dried meat on skewers, swap war stories, and listen to a Gersinger recite epic verses of Temujin's conquests. When the verse ends, each rider raises a horn and toasts to swift horses, sharper arrows, and luck that laughs in the face of death. You lift your horn and accidentally jostle it too hard, sending spiced milk splashing onto your front. You laugh, wiping sticky mash from your tunic. "I'll remember this as a victory," you quip. All at once, the mood shifts. A raven, your camp's favorite gossip carrier, coasts in, dropping a small blood-stained note at the fire's edge. Crimson runes spell out, "Remember the mountain pass." A chill runs through you. Tomorrow's orders await, but for now, you settle back against your horse's flanks, eyes on the star-flecked sky, heart full of triumph, and just a hint of dread. Because Part 3 promises a treacherous mountain crossing, a test of loyalty under fire, and the grand finale, the siege of a fortress perched on jagged cliffs, flaming arrows, cavalry charges, and enough mud to drown a dozen horses. Stick around, this Mongol nightmare is only heating up. The dawn sun is still a pale bruise on the horizon as you break camp. Today you tackle the treacherous Kentai mountain pass, where one wrong step means a fall as permanent as your Chinese-made saddle was temporary. Expect avalanches, ambushes, and the ultimate test of your allegiance to the Khan. Saddle up, archer. This is where legends are forged, where horses are lost. First, the Kentai climb, breathing stones and ice daggers. Your column of riders stretches out in single file along a narrow goat track carved into sheer cliff faces. The air is thin, every gasp tastes like you're inhaling gravel. Your horse picks its way over loose scree that slides under hoof, forcing you to shift weight with surgical precision or risk a plunge. Below, the valley floor is a distant memory. Above, jagged ice spires glimmer like frozen spears. Frost clings to your bow's sinew bindings, and each arrow feather crackles with cold. You glance back, comrades vanish into swirling mists, only to re-emerge like ghosts. Halfway up, an avalanche thunderclaps down, rocks and snow cascading in a roar that rattles your horse's bones. You urge your mount sideways, scraping along the cliff edge. The dust settles, you're alive, shaking, and wondering who thought high-altitude archery would be fun. Sweat freezes on your brow as you dismount to help a struggling rider whose mount slipped. Together, you heave the horse upright, ratcheting leather straps and whispering oath-like apologies. Time ticks. Mountain daylight is fleeting. Finally, the summit pass opens to a narrow saddle where you pause. You breathe deeply, tasting wind and fear, and realize you've earned the right to call yourself a mountain archer. Dusra, the loyalty trial. Midnight shadows and secret invitations. Camped at the pass's crest, flanked by sentinel riders, you drift towards sleep, only to be roused by Batu, Tiger Eyes Noyan, secret envoy of the Khan. Under a blanket of stars, he presses a sealed scroll into your palm. "Delivery to General Sergan," he hissed. "No questions." The seal bears the Khan's personal mark. You nod, heart pounding. Couriers caught with such orders face a fate worse than a Mongol winter. They vanish without tribute. Slipping from camp, you follow Tiger Eyes into a gully lit by moonlight. Wolves howl distantly. He halts beside a cairn of stacked stones. a marker known only to an inner circle. Here, loyalty is tested. You must choose. Continue with your troop at dawn or obey this clandestine mission alone. One wrong move, and the entire campaign might collapse. You swallow, break the seal, and memorize the runes. Allow no betrayal at Orkhan. He nods, disappears into shadow, and you hasten back, scroll hidden in your Chugtai's waistband. At first light, no one suspects. As riders wake, you join the jog trot, heart racing with secret purpose. The test is simple. Carry orders through enemy-saturated valleys without detection. It's a gamble of trust, courage, and arrow-whispered lies. If you deliver, you prove yourself to the Khan's eyes. If you fail, well, there's no warming hearth for failures in Genghis's army. Moondrum. Approaching Orkhan fortress. Siege drills and flaming rain. By midday, Orkhan's turreted silhouette cuts the sky. A fortress perched atop a rocky plateau, its walls high as mammoth tusks. You array your squad in the classic Mobius crescent, mounted archers on the flanks, infantry spear wall center. Thunderclap glances your way. Tonight, we test their walls. Tomorrow, they test our patience. As dusk falls, engineers wheel forward wooden mangonels and flame pots. Your role, hot arrow bombardment. Flaming tar-soaked shafts are passed, each arrowhead coated in alchemical pitch that ignites on contact. You notch your first fire arrow, draw, and release. It whistles and clatters against the granite wall, sparks blooming like murderous fireworks. Under cover of night, dozens of archers unleash a storm of flame. The walls erupt in spots of fire, defenders scramble, distractions bloom. Between volleys, you gallop forward to retrieve spent arrows, reload, and fire again, a dance of smoke and hoofbeats. The ground quivers under siege drums, embers swirl like malevolent fireflies. When the signal horn blows, infantry lunge toward the sally port. You hang back, raining arrows on any defender who shows a face above the battlements. The fight is savage, chaotic, and glorious. Your heart thunders louder than war drums as victory inches closer. 4. The cavalry charge and the turn of the tides. Just before dawn, you mount for the final push. The Khan's order, break their spirit before sunrise. You form the fabled Sin King charge, a wedge of horses aimed at the breached gate. You grip your bow in one hand, remaining arrows fanned across your wrists like fan blades. As the infantry blows horns and crashes iron against shields, you spur your mount forward, leaping a low wall in a single bound. The chaos of the interior courtyard engulfs you, smashed doors, flaming banners, and the stench of sweat and fear. You pivot in the saddle, unloading rapid shots at fleeing defenders. One arrow pins a swordsman's banner to the ground, another cracks through a blocker's shield rim. The momentum carries you through the carnage until the gate is in sight, blocked by fallen timbers. You draw your axe, leap down, and join the infantry in heaving wood aside. Your legs jellify, but adrenaline propels you. At last, the gate yawns. You lift your bow in salute to the morning sun and lead your unit outward, victorious, battered, ablaze with triumph. The fortress falls, the garrison surrenders, and you stand atop the walls, wind whipping your furs as a sentry's horn sounds a victory blast that echoes across the steppe. Hook for Part 4. With Orkhan secured, your mission shifts to delivering tribute to distant Khanates, navigating desert dunes, and negotiating with Persian swordsmen who scoff at horse nomads. Plus, the scroll you carried holds a secret that could shape the Empire's future, or ignite civil war. Part 4 dives into high-stakes diplomacy, a deadly sandstorm, and the final showdown with rival warlords. Stay mounted, comrades. Only the boldest rise to greatness. You stand atop Orkhan's breached gate as the morning sun gilds your furs, blood-spattered, smoke-scarred, and itching for the next absurd test of your Mongol mettle. Today, your path leads through scorching desert dunes, into the marble halls of Persian potentates, and finally to a revelation in that sealed scroll you risked your life to deliver. Saddle up for sandstorms, backroom politics, and a secret that could either crown you a savior or cast you into the void of Genghis's wrath. First, desert dunes in the scorching sprint. Orkhan's victory feast is still echoing in your skull when the Khan's horn splits the night. Dawn march. You and 30 horse archers ride southeast, trading rolling grass for rolling waves of ochre sand. The first shock, the dunes move under hoof like boiling soup. No solid footing, no way to predict a stable stride. Your warhorse, bred for steps, now flails knee-deep in powder, each gallop a labored lurch. Heat rises in shimmering waves. Your mail shirt feels like an iron skillet. Water skins rattle empty. You drink sparingly, eyeing the horizon for caravans or oases. Mirage after cruel mirage teases you. A glint of water, then nothing but sun-bleached bones. Thirst claws at your throat. Your tongue feels glued to the roof of your mouth. At noon, a sudden squall of sand whips across the dunes, slicing at exposed skin like tiny blades. You pull your burqa-like shroud over your face. An unflattering look, but better than swallowing grit. By late afternoon, you spot a smudge on the horizon. The halting pace of camel caravans. Salvation or bandits in disguise. You signal Batu Tiger Eyes, and he dispatches 2 riders to reconnoiter. They return bearing dates, goatskin sacks of barley, and rumors of a river just beyond the next dune ridge. You guzzle date-soaked water, stuff barley into your belt pouch, and nudge your mount, onward to life, or at least less death by dehydration. Dusra, the Persian court, silk carpets and sly diplomacy. Beyond the dunes lies the lush valley of the Oxus River, its banks lined with palm groves and stone bridges arched like bows. You march into the glittering city of Samarkand, where minarets soar, silk banners flutter, and the scent of spiced wine fills the air. Here, the Khan demands tribute from the Persian emir, a meeting of 2 worlds, nomadic ferocity versus courtly intrigue. You, the envoy, are ushered into a hall of marble pillars veined with gold. The emir reclines on cushions, swirling goblets of rosa-water wine. He regards you as one might inspect a particularly stubborn camel. You kneel and present your sealed scroll. His court freezes. Nobles clutch bejeweled daggers. Eunuchs hover over ink pots, and musicians cease their lutes mid-plunk. He snaps open the seal. With ceremonious slowness, he reads the runes. Permit no dissent among united Khanats. The golden line demands harmony or horses become bones. Whispered translation echoes through the hall. This scroll cements Genghis's claim as great Khan of all Mongol tribes and demands Persian vassalage, an ultimatum more biting than the desert. Wind, the emir's eyes glitter. He swirls his wine, strokes his silken beard, then stands. Great Khan's words are iron, he intones in a melodic tongue, but iron bends in fire. We pledge fealty, but only if your empire endures my bazaar's whims. He extends a ring inlaid with lapis. You accept with a nod, signifying the deal. Grain, artisans, and silk in exchange for military passage through Persian lands. As you depart, you feel the eyes of every courtier on you, some admiring, some plotting. Diplomacy here is a velvet glove concealing a steel gauntlet. You tuck the ring into your quiver, glad your dagger is still at your hip. Moondrom, the hidden gorge betrayal. Ambush at Jade Canyon. With Persian alliance in hand, you guide the column north through an emerald-lined gorge dubbed Jade Canyon. The cliffs close in, sun flecks off mica veins, creating a kaleidoscope under your feet. The path narrows to a single file. You lead, scroll ring pouch heavy at your waist. Suddenly, eagle shrieks tear the quiet. From fissures in the cliff walls, archers rain arrows, coal-black war shafts that whistle death. Horses rear, riders scramble for cover. You whirl in the saddle, drawing fire arrows. Flaming shafts hiss through open air, incinerating enemy quivers. Batu Tiger Eyes roars, counterflank, and 30 horsemen fan out, arrow showers blazing like meteor showers against the sky. The canyon echoes with screams, hoofbeats, and clang of steel. You pinpoint the traitorous force, elements of the Mongol clan, once allies, now hired cutthroats. You ride the rim perpendicular to the gorge floor, twisting in your saddle to release arrow after arrow into the canyon depths. Each impact flickers like a dark spark. After a harrowing 10-minute onslaught, the traitors break ranks, fleeing through side ravines. You pursue long enough to scatter them, then signal retreat, lest you fall into another ambush. When the gorge finally widens, dust settles, groans echo, and 30 wings of war horses line up once more. You count bowed heads, 2 riders felled, horses wounded, then carry on, hearts thrumming with betrayal's sting. Nangavda, desert funeral pyre in the Khan's judgment ahead lies the steps again, the wind carrying the smell of grass and home. At dusk, you halt in a windswept plain for funerary rites. 2 fallen comrades lie in sumptuous fur shrouds. You and the survivors build a pyre of oaks, pitch-soaked beams, and arrow-blasted shields. Each warrior lays an item on the flames, a broken arrow for the archer, a tattered saddle pad for the horseman. You approach the pyre, holding your hand axe, an heirloom from your first skirmish. The Khan's envoy, Batu Noyan, steps forward, his silvered hair blowing like storm clouds. He places the sealed scroll, now empty, at the base of the flames. Their memory, like these words, must endure beyond flesh, he murmurs. Then he nods to the pyromancer, a dwarf with a torch the size of a lamppost. Flames roar to life, consuming wood, steel, and parchment. Embers drift skyward, a final salute. The jousting wind carries the Khan's voice across the plain. Loyalty is written in blood and tested in flames. Let none forget. You bow, eyes misting at the blaze, then turn to face the rest. Tonight, you feast in somber honor. Stewed venison, flat bread, and the last of the spice mead. Songs of their valor rise, then fade into night. Eindavde, the secret unveiled, a revolt averted. For now. After the funeral vigil, you slip aside to examine the remains of the scroll's seal, his personal lion's paw crest. Hidden beneath it is a secondary cipher, peeled off before the flames. You unfold the charred fragment and decipher. Kar Batar conspires with the West, strike swift or empire fractures. Kar Batar, the Khan's blood brother, commander of the right wing. Betrayal in the heart of conquest, adrenaline flares. This knowledge could topple dynasties, but to reveal it means immediate bloodshed, perhaps civil war. To withhold it risks empires unraveling. You weigh duty against chaos, heart pounding like a war drum. You choose sworn loyalty. You will deliver the intelligence at dawn, no matter the cost. 6. Dawn of reckoning from horse archer to kingmaker. At first light, you ride before the Khan's tent bearing the cipher fragment. The camp hushed as you dismount. The great Khan, colossal and serene, sits atop a dais of wolf pelts. You kneel, present the fragment, and await judgment. He studies the text, then your face. Smoke from the funeral pyre still lingers, a reminder of sacrifice. He stands, uncoils a grin that's half praise, half threat. You carry weight of empires as lightly as your bow. He proclaims, Kar Batar will answer for this, as will you, should this loyalty falter. He signals his guard. You rise, heart racing. The Khan's nod seals your fate. You are no longer merely an archer. You are confident, counselor, and potential executioner of treachery. Your life has transcended the step. You stand on the cusp of legend. Epilogue: the archer's quiet hour. As the camp mobilizes to confront Kar Batar, you steal a moment by your horse's flank. You stroke its mane, whisper apologies for the trials ahead. You mount, position your bow, and let the rising sun illuminate your face, etched with exhaustion, pride, and an ironic smirk. For 4 harrowing parts, you have ridden dawn patrols, stormed mountain passes, brokered empire's fates, and faced betrayal's sting. Now, destiny beckons, the final showdown between loyalty and ambition. But whatever the outcome, you, Mongol horse archer, have already etched your name across the steppe, an arrow poised to strike at the heart of history. May your aim stay true.